Hello everybody and welcome to the extras part. So before we do some stuff in the actual game from myself, we're going to take a look at the story trailer for Azran Legacy that was first released on October 2013 by Nintendo of Europe. And America got its version of that trailer in the following month. This story trailer is infamous for spoiling a lot of stuff. So...
Was this featuring one of the early Nintendo Directs?
No. This particular trailer was not in the Directs. It was just uploaded in general. I can tell you that the Japanese trailer made by Level 5 themselves is much better at hyping the story and without revealing anything. But... But let's just keep going. All right. So basically, everybody, let's look at the trailer. All right, level 5. Indeed. Moving on. And yeah, since just like in the Japanese trailers, we get to see the animation straight from the archive, straight from the masters.
Hi.
I'm not ominous at all.
Did you do that?
I am the emissary of the Azran people. Aurora.
I see.
Borealis.
Our legacy to the world.
Nice to meet
we
you,
left
Aurora.
behind. This dome will show you the way. Find the locations of the Azran keys. Prove you are worthy of our power.
We assure you it is nothing bad. Vessel Layton and the Azran Legacy trademark.
So yeah, in the Nintendo Europe upload, they just say trailer, but in the Nintendo of America upload, they call it the story trailers, which, yeah, most of this trailer is just cutscene stuff, so yeah, it does fit that bill.
To solve the mystery of the so-called living mummy. It was to be the beginning of an epic
Living mummy?
Yeah, that was the initial mystery, Jova. That just lives.
Got it on the first try.
I was on more about Emmy's pronunciation.
To reveal the secret of the Azran Legacy, you must locate the 5 Azran artifacts.
Oh, there you go. Now we get the locations where they're supposed to be.
There you go.
Yeah, so that one was America.
Africa, Australia.
Oh, that one was Africa. We thought that one was
And,
Spain, too.
Southeast Asia, and Russia.
Yeah, Frauenberg was in Russia.
Interrogate witnesses.
And COD is supposed to be Australia.
All these in Australia.
Or more like New Zealand.
Wait,
New
oh my
Zealand
god!
is more than Australia.
Wait, oh my god, guys, they still didn't show the 6th land! Oh, god damn it!
I mean, you did not want too many spoilers, Jova.
Puzzles created by Karatago.
Wait, hold on. I wasn't the one talking about that in regards.
Meet colourful characters. Like Liar, Bastard, him,
Onion.
And prepare to face danger. There you go.
That was literally a cutscene given at the very end after Aurora
To be fair, so far these are beat out of context.
Yeah, no, don't worry, Theo. That's what the ending part of this trailer is for. There you go. See?
Okay, not really.
Hold on. And now, there you go. And now we spoil the fact that yeah. For the record, the Japanese marketing didn't have this bit at all.
Okay, I understand what you mean, but if I had to be honest, again, even before playing the game and knowing anything, I was expecting the Azrans to be dicks to begin with.
Sure.
When you mentioned the trailer being spoilers, I thought they were going to mention something about the brother thing.
Oh, Theo, that's what this next... It's interesting you say that,
Theo. This is why we don't tempt fate.
Who dropped the ball? Nintendo? So, like, did Level 5 approve this and told them, yeah, this is good to do it?
Actually, Theo, I can answer that too. Remember, back when Curious Village was being made, Level 5 had an objection to Curious Village's European cover art. So Level 5 at the time was already involved with discussing with Nintendo how to market the game in the West. However, Level 5 wanted the cover to also feature some of the story aspects in the cover. But Imperial of Europe didn't budge. They said no. With a cover focused on puzzles, this will sell more in Europe. And as we both know, they turned out to be right. And when the sales figures came in, Hino said, "Okay, I guess they know what they're doing." So after that, Hino was always took Nintendo's advice on how to sell the games in the West. So
so I'm guessing Nintendo has to be blaming some capacity.
That said, it does seem like Level 5 did okay this trailer. How well did this game sell?
I'll have to look it up.
Well, in the meantime, I guess we can look at the rest.
All right, everybody. Actually, first off, Shiroi, thoughts on this trailer?
I don't think it's as bad as I expected it to be, minus the brother part. The rest of it is very out of context and could easily be in like the first third of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like they show, like what they show that are heavy, that we know are heavy spoilers. They only showed for like 2 to 3 seconds, and again, so out of context that it could be. I agree with Jova. People probably thought this was very early game stuff. You know, this is supposed to be a grand finale, so they're gonna up the stakes by quite a bit. And no, the brother thing was the only thing that was actually a problem here, I think.
Yeah, basically, as I theorized, we looked at the American trailers comment sections. People don't seem to be mad about any spoiler stuff. So my theory was that, well, technically, while the trailer is very spoilery in hindsight to the point where, once you're playing the game, you'll realize, oh crap, this stuff was spoiled and it's endgame material. If you were to watch this particularly blind, starting with the trailer, without knowing a thing about the game prior, you would be perfectly fine in assuming that, okay, most of the stuff is stuff they're okay with us knowing for a reason. I do feel that the Aurora bit where she pretty much says, the treasure is evil, while some could argue that's obvious, I would say to some that is still a bit overtly spoilery. But special mention definitely goes to the brother.
Yeah, it's one of those things where
they pretty much telegraph. They pretty much telegraph also that Sycamore is going to be Deathquake, because you can tell in the voices alone in that regard.
Oh yeah.
But also though, like the main thing is the brothers thing. Like I said, for the sake of argument, one could have thought back then that, wow, the big revelation is the brother thing, but that just means there's going to be even bigger, better surprises. Which is why my guess is like the backlash against the trailer probably came in the wake of the game's actual release as opposed to its build-up point.
I can see that. My argument there is that, yes, you knew beforehand that this was going to happen about the Azrans being this, but that's because you're trope savvy. You know how these things go. But imagine, but that just because people are trope savvy, that doesn't mean marketing teams should be careless about spoilers. It's something that gets discovered in the plot as a surprise to the characters. Therefore, I will still count it as a spoiler.
I will agree on Shiroi's point, though, that this is not as spoilery as I remembered it being. It is still spoilery, though, but it's not the worst. Like, we're not to Sony trailer levels, thank Christ.
Alright, so that was the trailer, everybody. Now let's actually take a look at the extra stuff. Okay,
I will say this.
Go on.
One missed opportunity I do feel is that, well, we don't get a cool post-story campaign, with the meta fourth wall breaking stuff that Layton games sometimes had.
Bloom at large. Bloom, remember him?
Yes, Bloom runs into the most unlikely figure. Inspector Groski's #1 fan. The nest is crawling with police. That confounded Carmichael and his meddling.
Yeah, Bloom apparently escaped, I guess.
I should probably steer clear for the time being.
That, or he managed to broker a deal and got let go, I'm guessing.
Killing informant. Maybe that's the reason the Scotland Yard managed to get
Oh.
the nest.
Oh yeah, like, we already know that Bloom was the one who blew the whistle on the nest. We don't know how they knew to come to
I do beg your pardon, miss. Aren't you Leonard Bloom, the detective? Huh. You've heard of me?
Because you're associated with Grosky, of course.
Heard of you? I thought Grosky had put you behind bars. You're a corrupt police officer. A criminal. True.
News travels far, it seems.
Well, remember,
He knows everything about
ha 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 ha. Krosky's moment of glory, a fine arrest. Yes, that day in custody was most unpleasant, but as we all know, British justice doesn't work.
It's
So...
only the day that they kept me behind
Next you're
those
gonna tell me
bars.
that people don't stay permanently in Arkham Asylum.
Let me explain how this works for you, miss. I was just one part of that organization. Many more still lurk in the shadows. Without me, how is anyone going to bring them to light?
Yep.
I don't care. Nothing you say is going to change the fact that you are a criminal. I simply cannot let you go.
Do you know the term plea deal?
Then consider this. With my intellectual capacity and your fervor for justice, we could achieve great things together. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to,
Roll that mustache
I
in the
guess-
morgue, you
I get- I-
card-carrying villain.
I guess, Scotland Yard? You may label me a villain, but that is a careless judgment based on the company I once kept.
Oh, throwing your past away, are you?
Personally, I do not care whether I work for the law or for criminals. I ask only that my talents do not go to waste.
Don't throw your
Yeah.
pasta, Jova.
He folded like a cheap suit.
And you expect me to cooperate with you? Why should I believe you?
Because I said so.
Well, our intelligence services had no trouble believing me. They know that I am willing to work in the name of justice, if I get what I want, of
Or
course.
So,
great
yeah.
justice.
So yeah,
No.
like I mentioned, it seems he got a plea deal where essentially he'll lead them.
By all means, if you're worried that I might commit another crime, escort me to their headquarters. I won't resist.
What an interesting tag team duo these two will be in the Layton fighting game.
Well, I'll trust you for now, but any funny business and I'm taking you to Grosky. Is that clear?
And then she ends up falling in love with him.
Oh
No.
god, no.
No,
Jova.
please, no.
Would
Nope.
you put it past anime?
No. I refuse that notion. Crystal.
Like,
It's
it's
not
the
her name.
typical.
No, she said, I
You're
will...
making a joke, Pedro.
Well, okay. He didn't really sound sarcastic there. Luke's day off. Having reached the end of his latest adventure, Luke returns to London to meet up with his parents, who are ever so glad to see how grown up he's become.
I could sense the joke.
Alright, Shiroi, me, and Jova. Right now. Go ahead.
Dad, look! I brought some treats! Professor Layton got them for us after we died!
Don't tell the poor Duke.
You what?
He
I'm
died of
Professor.
anticipation. He died of anticipation.
How very generous of him. Caramel slices. I'm going to have to watch myself around these.
Go straight to the hip.
Yep. Go ahead, Shiroi.
Suit if it does.
I'm sure your father will scoff a lot tonight.
Oh,
What?
Family Matters, I guess. Charming. I don't know.
I remember that show.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Urkel, Shiroi.
No, I wasn't referencing the show specifically, more like, oh, family shenanigans.
Well, sure, I guess. I mean...
No, it's not a bad thing, don't worry, Pedro.
Mom! What are you doing here?
Just met her outside.
I'm married to your dad.
Go ahead.
Surprised? I was getting on with my research at the university library and thought I'd drop in to see how your father was doing.
Yeah, we did met her last time when she was all right outside university.
Well, she hasn't been in this specific room before at this point, though, too.
Oh,
You don't want to see me?
well,
Fine, I will go back to work and I'm
also,
taking the
that
caramel
reminds
slices.
me, we never really found out what this machine is for.
I think she's more keen on getting a glimpse of some of this cutting-edge technology, if you ask me.
Cutting edge, like the flip phone.
That never will catch on, Jova.
It's kind of like that joke in Snake Eater. And someday they'll make movies where you get to control the characters. Ah, that's just science fiction. Go ahead.
Well, perhaps a little of both.
Yeah.
Or Black Panther's first appearance.
As we're going to
in the
see-
comics,
As we're going to
oh,
see in a few minutes from now in the dress request for Brenda, the fires are still strong with these two, as you're going to see.
I can believe that.
But you know, this old campus really takes me back. Also, flip phones are fine, but those smartphones that just fold the screen in half kind of weird me out a little bit. It feels wrong.
Also, these two really are nostalgic for the campus days.
They are.
Yes, it makes me wonder what they got up to during those days. Oh god, it was probably the 70s, wasn't it?
Oh, that reminds me. Can you tell me more about what the professor was like when he was younger?
Oh, he was a lush.
Go on.
Back when the three of us studied here, let's see. Well, he was very dedicated, very hardworking.
Let's just say he had a good reason to be like that, as we learn in Miracle Mask. Play Miracle Mask if you want to know more. Yes, very hardworking, but he missed half his lectures in favor of going out exploring.
Of course.
Also, to an extent, the flashback scenes in Lost Future.
He was quite the adventurer, wasn't he? Sometimes he'd go off for days on expeditions to who knows where. His attendance was abysmal.
That explains a lot.
Again, like Theo said, the absent-minded professor trope.
Actually, that was me. You mentioned the absent-minded professor
Oh, was it?
stuff.
Okay, then.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Haha, I never would have expected him to become a respectable university professor.
He's still an absent-minded one, though.
Well, we can't
Did
be.
he even teach
Well, we can. Well, we
Puzzle
can.
here and
Well,
puzzle
We've
there.
seen
Well, we
credit
can't.
sheet right
Well,
now, so-
well, Luke, nobody's perfect.
Remember, Rosetta Stone is very,
I learned a lot from
very
him.
dedicated.
I
to
learned
his
that the truly
lectures.
important things in life can't be found in books and papers.
But there are always stacks of papers in your study.
That is beyond my.
Also, Jova,
That is
that's
beside my
exactly
point.
Why he isn't in the classroom?
Go ahead,
He's
Shirley.
avoiding her. You know, Luke, when you first said you wanted to go off with the professor, I was so worried about you.
Oh,
Well,
come
Sheila-
on, what's
well,
the worst that
Sheila-
can happen with the professor?
Well, Shirley, look at.
Die?
Well, Shirley, look at the bright side. At least the whole "where are your parents" thing is indeed explained in these games, so we know.
I'm actually very glad that, for once about what this franchise did with Luke's parents, in trying to justify why, like a small child would go on to these perilous adventures.
It's
Eno
also
managed
nice
to give us a nice functional family when no
Yeah.
one has to die.
Go on.
Yeah.
And now I see that you've grown up faster than I ever could have imagined, although we do have New World of Steam.
You have no idea
Again,
the
just
things
wait
I have
until the
seen.
child goes to America. I better die.
Well, remember, guys. The reason he moves to America is to go with his parents, so they're still like
Right, that's because if I recall correctly,
His dad.
Yeah, his dad was transferred.
Is
Is that got a job there? Yeah.
Oh, no, I thought one of them got ill.
No, Theo. It was the dad who got a job. You can look our Lost Future run again if you
I
want.
just forgot. Don't worry.
Although, given they had to leave Saint Mystere, it's kind of a shame about Luke's friends back there.
Well, I'm sure somebody else got elected to be the new president. I mean, that's kind of how things work. I mean, look at the state of your jacket. Don't tell me you've been traveling the world in that tattered old thing. And this explains why he gets his now traditional OG trilogy
Sweater
outfit.
vest.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose it may have gotten a bit singed when I was killed by that laser.
Well, we can't have that. It's about time we bought you a new one.
Children talk too much.
In the wise words of
I
Hershel, is past
Oh,
your
sure, go ahead.
Come and see us again before you set off on your next adventure, and we'll go shopping together. How would you like that?
Family shopping. But anyway, sure, isn't our son cute, Brenda? Like, he constantly keeps talking about how he died for some reason. How
Lot of excitement.
kids are so full of imagination.
Dad, I literally saw the afterlife. Forget my life flashing before my eyes. I saw the pearly gates and everything.
All right, so that was Luke's day off. Now we have the farewell Emmy episode. Luke and Emmy have teased each other, mocked each other, and become firm friends, but now it's time to say goodbye. So basically, we saw Layton saying goodbye to Emmy. Now we get to see Luke's goodbye to Emmy.
You traitor!
Yeah, pipe down.
You know, I can't believe how worked up I got before. For a moment, I thought you'd really betrayed us.
Yeah, we already.
We really want to hammer this point.
They really
We
do.
did mean it.
Pedro, remind me.
Hey, good guy.
No. Remember what you said, Pedro. The more someone tells us something, the more they're trying to convince themselves.
Yeah, basically. Well, the usual quote that I use for those things doesn't technically apply in this situation, too, but I get what you mean.
Okay.
No, it's like I said in the previous part. The more you try and get audiences to see a character who they're on the fence of as a designated good guy, the more that the audiences tend to rebuff that approach.
I'm so sorry, Luke.
Oh?
Okay,
What?
to be fair,
What is there to apologize for?
to be fair,
This isn't like you at all, Emmy.
okay,
I have a knife to your throat.
okay, if I'm going to, I guess, give the game the highest benefit of the doubt, I guess the idea with this is that since he's an innocent kid, he's trying to convince himself of this.
Yeah, 'cause her silence pretty much said it all, really.
Although the problem is that the narrative still treats it like
Yeah.
you're supposed to feel
Oh, there you go.
bad.
There you go. See, like a.
I don't want to hear it. You don't have to explain anything to me.
That's the line that kind of tells me that I guess we can interpret the idea that yeah, go ahead.
Although also keep in mind this is an extra bit, so
Oh
not
sure.
the main story.
Oh sure. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. The whole Emmy thing is crap. That's not what I'm trying to say. Like it's just that I can kind of see what they're trying to do with Luke in this scene. That's basically
I do wonder if this ending was actually made as like someone realizing, oh crap, we gotta add something to facilitate stuff. Go on.
I'll get back to it in a second.
Emmy talks to the dean. She's taking a holiday.
A long holiday.
Indeed.
The kind that involves handcuffs and being behind bars.
You can't just leave. I won't let you.
Again, to be fair, Luke is a very innocent and very sensitive boy. So of course, after having the big sister relationship he's had with Emmy throughout these 3 years, of course I can buy that he would still be sad over letting her go.
She chose.
I had a choice,
Paulie.
Luke, and I chose Paulie.
There you go.
In the end, it was my decision and mine alone.
I'll just say this, I feel like the whole Luke feeling betrayed or wanting to deny a certain aspect thing was done better in the crossover.
Oh sure.
But yeah, I feel like this bit was added as sort of an offers saving throw when they realized, crap, we kind of make it seem like Emmy is purely a good guy. And look, I still don't think this is enough, but I can appreciate the effort to try and fix some stuff if that was the intent of this chapter, because that's definitely what it feels like to me.
Emmy,
I know
Emmy,
the professor won't judge me. He'd stand by me. Just like he did the first time.
Emmy,
Oh yeah, the first time. Okay, now my turn.
Don't presume what you don't know.
Not just that. Like okay, and now it's my turn. Oh, you mean that first time we met? Yeah, we never get a payoff for that, by the way. What was even the point of having that backstory flashback in Last Spectre if it never comes up? Like,
If I recall correctly, I'm sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
If I recall correctly, what the story asserts is like, well, Emmy had a job essentially to keep tabs on the professor, but supposedly she also did want to be his assistant because he had helped her. Now, what I would have done to help this out more narratively is show Emmy struggle between the two sides or whatnot. Because the thing is, for all she talks about it, she still doesn't hesitate with helping Brono before anyone else. She takes Luke hostage. She pretty much does not protest against Brono pretty much trying to outright sacrifice Aurora to death as far as she knew, because they did not know that girl was a golem, essentially. So, no, the game doesn't do the best thing in there. Conversely, I feel like this would have been great as showing a fall of Emmy, but in contrast, a rise of Descalay. you remember how I mentioned before that ironically,
It's interesting you say that, Jova, because this is actually the next one is actually one of my favorite episodes, focusing on Descole. After putting Link's life before his own, Descole lies on the verge of death, losing consciousness. He drifts into a dream and reflects on his life, a life of pain and regret, and we get the confirmation of something involving his backstory. So, Jova and Shiroi, go ahead.
I am Aurora, an artificial being created by the Azran to serve a single purpose. I was not supposed to have desires of...
As the title implies, dreams of a dying man. This is a dream he's having. What he was having during the, in between parts where we left him there and when he returned. So this was a dream.
That's right. He knew in his dreams that Aurora was a golem before anyone else did.
All right.
It was a very slow dream.
Go ahead.
I was there when their civilization fell.
I was there when... Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was there when their civilization fell. I watched and I despaired.
I was there when the strength of men fell. Cast it into the fire, Dwibs! Destroy... Oh, wait, sorry. Cast it into the fire, Jova! Destroy it!
Then I awoke, not to the destruction, but to a bright new world. Filled with happy faces, filled with friendship.
Because
Jova! Jova!
Don't even!
Jova!
Exists in this series!
It should have ended that day. There is no strength left in the world of... I guess America? I don't know.
Friendship is indeed magic. The more that line hurts you, the more powerful I become. I hope you know that.
Go ahead.
Your people and your world gave me hope, and a purpose of my own.
Descole learned a lot in his dream.
Go ahead.
Oh, a worthless illusion. As Desmond Sycamore, I hope to live a normal life with my family.
So there you go. At somewhere along the... So yeah.
Sycamore actually was...
Not a persona.
Kinda, sorta his real name.
There you go.
I believed I could move on from my past and live for more than just revenge. What naivete! And of course, just when I thought I found happiness, fate wrested it from...
So there you go. Descole actually did manage to recover from his initial trauma, but then, there you go.
Now, my wife and daughter are gone, and with them, that fool Sycamore.
So there you go. Descole went not through one, but two lost families. Making him quite possibly the most tragic level 5 character.
So, here's the big irony and one thing I do love about Descole. Sycamore, we think, is just a mask.
Yeah, but he's not.
In reality, it was the man he was.
I actually really like that. That's a genuinely good... Again, one of the best handled characters of this game is definitely Descole.
This is why I do feel like one thing that would have been cool with having Emmy being a trailer is have it be a parallel. It's Emmy's downfall, but Descole's rise. Emmy's deception... And ironically, it's the masked man who's the most honest with us in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which also would have been a great deal for him to come back to being Sycamore and hold a relationship with Layton. Maybe have it be that he moved out to America or Asia or something, but still kept in touch with Layton at the very least.
Well, they are gone. Their hopes and dreams live on in your heart.
How would you know? You were, well, blocked in ice ages before they died.
Go ahead.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, why he agrees with you.
You're talking to a person of an ancient civilization and you call this ridiculous. I have seen the sadness and longing in your eyes.
I find it ridiculous that you tried to be my therapist.
Well,
Now, let's
you
start at
didn't
the
go and
beginning.
get one yourself, so...
Go ahead.
You hide behind this persona, but I know you still have the capacity to love and to hope.
Remember, Joe, but this is a dream, so you can. This is a typical trope that you see in Japanese games, which is the person's subconscious in fighting, like two sides of the same persona of the person's subconscious. You know. Go ahead.
Oh, I know that, but in his guise, he may not know it's a dream because normally, unless you're a lucid dreamer, you tend to not know a dream's a dream initially.
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yes, I reassumed the guise of Desmond Sycamore, but it was only as a means to an end.
Professor, there is still kindness within you. I forgive you even if you do not forgive yourself.
The fact that he saved Luke's life proves that he has not completely lost his humanity. So,
And that's why he got rid of his cape in that scene to show he was
That
better.
still has to take to. That makes me question why is the rivalry with Layton to begin with over the course of the games.
oh no, the
We
rival.
talked
It's not
about
some.
it earlier. The rivalry was more about they both ended up going after the same thing.
Yeah.
Descalade wanted
I would
desperately
like to remind you that at the very least in the movie, I forgot if even in the game, Descalade purposely invited Layton to join the mystery and then attempted to kill him.
Well, yeah,
Okay, that's
Teo.
actually a good point.
Well, yeah, Teo. That's because as this game established, he's mad with obsession. Like he's mad, literally.
But this game actually makes it true that his goal just to destroy the Azrans and specifically Sergeant. Ideally, he has no quarrel with Layton to begin with. That's what this game is telling.
Teo, but there's the thing. Here's the thing. He wants to be the one to discover the Azran to like he said before. The fact that Layton is the one discovering it makes him angry because he wants to be the one to for the sake of his own ego. That's the idea.
Although
And he
Tatia's
was
credit-
angry in the movie, like
Although-
after he figured out the song proper.
Although
He did
Tatia's
run at him
credit-
from behind with a sword.
Although to Tio's credit, it is a bit overboard that he tries to kill his brother. Like, I could get him wanting to incapacitate Layton, but given he was going at him at stuff like a mech
So
or a
anyway,
flipping sword, which could cut him up.
Layton is
Yeah.
back in London now.
All right,
Alright.
us three. Go ahead.
Ma, Pa, is something the matter?
Yes, son. I've come to realize that this might be the very last scene you have with us. Oh, nice to see you too, son.
I'm only taking a sabbatical from acting. Come on.
Some lovely people at Scotland Yard were kind enough to tell us that you were on your way back, so your father and I waited here. So basically this is right after they came back to London after the whole thing. No, you're not hurt or anything, are you? You look a little worse for wear. I hope you've been eating properly.
I've been making 7 of these games. I'm knackered.
Also, good job saving the world, son.
I'm fine, Mom, really. It's good to see you looking so well.
Mom,
There's quite some life in us yet. You're only as old as you feel, you know. Yeah, I know that. I know, because even though I'm only 35, I feel like I'm like 50. So...
Very true indeed.
Very true indeed.
Hershel, my boy.
My boy.
My boy, you have reached the ultimate puzzle that most puzzle solvers strive for. You've done well for yourself.
Dad, please. I owe it all to my wonderful parents. You guys know. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what he
You
means.
taught me everything I know. Yes, because my actual mom is dead and my actual dad is a dick.
It's like that's why I like that line from him that he says to Bronov. It's like, I can never call you father. My parents are Roland and Lucille, and that's it.
Yeah.
My word, Hershel, what's come over you all of a sudden? There's nothing wrong, is there?
It's
Go
not
ahead,
like
go
you saw your brother die.
ahead. Go ahead.
I'm simply glad I have a place I can call home. That's all. Even if it's London.
Well, actually, Hershel. Go on.
You'd trouble if I were to drop by one evening. I do miss your home cooking.
Well, actually, Hershel, we do not live in London, as we established in Miracle Mask. Of course you can, Hershel, dear. I'll make you a shepherd's pie.
Ooh, yummy. Yeah, Dick Layton's on his way out, so he's being nice for once.
Remember, Dwebs, Hershel's parents live in a remote village in the country, so it's not in London. So, go ahead.
Give the boy a rest, Lucille. He's had a long day. Seeing his brother die, his father carted off to jail. I'm sure he could use some.
Yes, good. I think we have a lot of catching up to do.
Indeed. Alright, and now, before we watch the final episode, because I feel like the final episode works much better if we watch it as the final thing. Let's take a look at the outfit requests.
Wait, we're not getting the comparison of the cutscenes voiced by Lani Minella?
No, too. There's not really that much for me to show you regarding that, if it helps you. Not particularly. Trust me, if there was something that I think was worth showing, I would. But this part is already big enough as it is, so...
Sure.
We've already been through the basics. If you prefer Lani Minella or Maria Darling,
I know that it's
whichever
personal, that it's something that is personal to you, but I still find it amusing.
Go ahead.
What?
Yeah, personal
What?
preference,
People are allowed
except
to
there's a
have
right and wrong answer to that question.
Well, here it is. Is it right or is it wrong?
Wow, this is simply wonderful. It's everything I could have ever hoped for.
There you go, dudes. The prototype of the Layton dressing mechanic.
True art really is incomprehensible.
That's
All you needed was cat ears the whole time.
That outfit is certainly
Very
a
pleased you like
choice.
it, Frida.
I'm more questioning the slippers.
Alright,
The cold.
go ahead.
I'm really glad I came to you both. This outfit's so sweet, it's giving me toothache.
So me watching Nagatoro, okay.
So, yeah, I guess this is our new career now. Dressmakers.
Fashion designers, the new Dolce & Gabbana.
Yes, this is my job now.
It is our calling.
Do you think I could try it on? I'd love to see what it looks like on me.
And yes, we do get to see a full 3D rendered version of her model with all the outfits. So let's
If I
see.
recall correctly, the NPCs you give outfits to will keep these outfits on for the rest of the campaign after you design them.
I don't
There you
think
go.
so, but yeah, that's how she looks with it.
You're freezing your legs off.
It looks much cuter on the model than in the picture.
What do you think? I think it really suits me.
Yeah, that's why we made it for you.
Well, I guess if you're a fan of Tokyo Mew Mew.
Don't you mean Mew Mew Power?
Shut up.
My word, it certainly does.
Tima, why did you for it?
Jova?
You look really cute, Prima.
That was a rare case of a fork his army that just came and went.
Why, thank you. You really made my day.
By the way, my condolences about your guard company being foreclosed. We will miss the Prima line of guides, but unfortunately online guides have overtaken them.
I can't wait to show this to Donna. She's going to be so jealous. Thank you so much.
And for the
Both of
record, I still ship both Prima and Donna.
You do it because of the shipping name, don't you?
Not just because of that, because I love their dynamic of she's the cutesy airhead, and she's the one who's constantly trying to call her to reason, you know. So
Fabulous!
Yeah, fabulous.
Fabulous.
I wish I
Only 4 out of 5
can actually do a gay Alf voice really well. So, but I won't do it. Let's
Wow,
see.
that is a choice.
This one. This is actually Brenda's outfit. Sure. You see, Brenda. Look. We're not going to judge people based on their clothing tastes. Okay.
Out loud.
Go ahead.
Well, Luke, have you finished my outfit?
In fact, this will also.
Yes, I think.
Well, look at the bright side, Shua. You'll get to see some lovey-dovey time between Brenda and Clark. So.
Well, here it is, Mum. Prepared to be released to the world. What do you think?
You're grounded.
Goodness, this is wonderful. You really listened to what I wanted. And, oh, I adore those wings.
You don't know what we had to do to get them.
She says all this through gritted teeth.
For hours having to hunt Pidgeys.
Mm-hmm.
You killed birds for this?
Oh, no. I didn't do that. Layton, though, just took their wings. With feathers.
We needed them.
Not at all. Now I'd better get changed before your father gets here.
Yeah, basically this is the plan is to surprise Clark with this. So let's see.
Oh, God, this is a bloody roleplay, isn't it?
And there you go. And the wings work.
Yeah,
Okay.
getting those wings to work was the real challenge.
And then Clark's like, "Row."
It
Go
looks like
ahead, Cherry.
me.
Well, what do you think, you two? Also, go on, Jova.
Should I
Go ahead, Jova.
really
Go ahead,
have a
Jova.
say
Go ahead,
in
Jova.
this?
Go ahead, Jova.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit much. A whole lot. Just too much.
Let's see what Clark thinks. You look absolutely stunning, Brenda. It suits you to a T.
That you
Look
probably
like,
say.
well, that's it. I'm going back to the Azran beam.
Go ahead.
Do you really think so, Clark? I asked Luke to make me something special.
Oh, and he
Oh,
did.
darling.
In fact,
What?
Sheila, remember that moment from Family Guy Season 2? Brenda, we gotta go right now.
Yeah. Also, I know Layton wanted to keep this, strictly a family affair, but they did honor the fact that he is part of their relationship by wearing a hat that's a bit similar to his.
Go ahead, Sheree.
Of course.
I thought it would be a nice thing to wear for our wedding anniversary.
Happy wedding anniversary!
Oh
Happy
my
wedding!
God.
Happy wedding anniversary,
Really?
indeed.
dad's
Look! They're both into it. If it works for them, it works. Okay.
You're making Layton seem like he was subtle in comparison.
What an excellent idea! I was just thinking that your outfit reminded me of when we first started seeing it. Oh, now they're gonna have the whole. Oh, back when we were young and we were.
You see, it reminds me of it because
At the very least,
go ahead.
those are reminded of a puzzle.
Go ahead, Sheree.
Stop it, Clark. You're making me blush. I was thinking the same thing myself, though.
Let me guess, she showed up and he thought she was an angel.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
You know what this means, right, guys? Clark is gonna get lucky tonight in the bedroom. By the way, Brenda, could you? Later on when we're in the bedroom, could you wear that during?
I think I'd better just leave that to it. As long as they're happy,
Stays on.
I suppose.
Sure. It's okay because the two of them are married. So there's nothing wrong with them doing this. The two of them are married.
The two of them are married.
I seriously.
That being said, guys, this is actually my favorite outfit. The one for Scarlet.
I seriously just contributed to my parents' sex life.
I actually genuinely believe that both in the drawing and in the model, her outfit looks really good. I really like the mix.
It's a cute one.
Yeah,
This one's a goodie.
go ahead.
You're back. I'm fixing to burst. Show me the goods.
Fixin' to burst?
Remember,
Sovereign is
Shiroi, Southern Pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot this was a pearl.
Southern
Because we're
Pearl.
in America, and
I'm-
again, Southern accent is
'Cause
what
I'm-
Brits normally tend to do when they're trying to pretend to be American.
My name is Pearl, goddarn it. Go ahead.
My name is Pearl, goddammit. Coming right up. What do you think, Scarlet?
Gee whiz, that's a real bang-up job y'all have done here. It's just like what I was dreaming up in my head.
See? We're getting really good at this.
It reminds me of that scene in Portal 2 where Wheatley tries to speak with an American accent and he cannot
It's like we're just
do it.
It's like we're just finding these clothes wherever we go.
Indeed.
Like I found that shirt in a box.
It was actually a coffin, but we don't want to talk about how we got it out of that box.
Get down to each other.
Exactly.
Great, we really tried hard to get you everything you wanted.
Yes.
Where did you try your outfit on, Scarlet? I must say, I look forward to seeing your transformation.
What is she, a magical girl?
Sure, why not?
You
Yes.
betcha.
Okay, I know that stick has a specific name because it's a common thing in Japanese culture because the character Welch in Star Ocean also uses that one as a weapon.
There you go.
Goodness.
What you think? I'm real fond of the bloom on my head, but I wonder if Grandma will get all
persnickety over it.
Good lord, that flower is huge.
I can just see.
It's called a fascinator.
I can just see Granny going like, "No, the granddaughter of mine is gonna wear that." Like, do you see how much skin you're showing?
I did wonder if it'd be a little too grown up for you, but I think it suits you very well indeed.
Yeah, because if you notice, that outfit does show off the navel. Midriff.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It looks just perfect on you, Scarlet.
Well, ain't that sweet of you? I can't wait to show Grandma now. You know, I might show her the new jig I've been working on, too.
Also,
Oh boy.
people for some reason.
Yeah, because apparently a midriff exposing outfit just sends people into conniptions.
Get your mind out of the
I
gutter.
don't understand people.
Get your mind out of the gutter, people.
I reckon if there's one thing my grandma loves more than fancy clothes, it's dancing. We're gonna have a screaming good time.
And your grandma will be the one who's screaming.
And then Grandma sees it and she dies out of a heart attack.
Damn.
And
She
then-
just dies.
And then Grandma dies of a heart attack.
Funeral will be held
All
next
right.
Monday.
Now, the one outfit that I don't particularly care for is Mary's. I think the outfit is way too extravagant for her.
Oh, someone was a fan of
Okay,
Revolutionary
yeah.
Girl.
I
None
can-
of these go together at all.
I can see what she's going for. Like she wants to look super cool and extravagant because she's trying way too hard to impress Humid. But there you go. Now there you go, guys. Get ready because now we're gonna get the payoff when it comes to Humid. So
Like I said, someone's a real big fan of Revolutionary Girl Utana.
clearly,
Of course. What do you think?
It's
There's the other half of it.
Wow, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted. It's so stunning. It's making my eyes hurt.
I can understand the logic because the idea is that she's trying way too hard to impress Humid. So I can understand the logic. Go ahead.
No, I was waiting for you to finish.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, each of those pieces looks like they come from an entirely different outfit.
I will argue it's mostly just a cape.
The pink slippers.
Well, that's the thing. That's not a cape. That's technically part of a coat.
I guess.
It's that weird thing you see some characters do where they partially
there
wear
you
a
go, sure.
coat, but then let the rest hang like a cape.
You know what? I'm going to try it on right now and show Uma just how fashionable I can be.
It's Humid.
Oh!
Actually,
Oh.
this is the ultimate test, Luke. Because if he loves her through this, they're set for life. Okay.
Well, Shiroi, let's see what Humid says then. Are you ready, Lips?
Well, I hope she doesn't blame us if he rejects her based off of that outfit.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure how much he knows about fashion, but here we are.
Wow, it really does not work.
Well,
that outfit is wearing her.
go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead. Go ahead, Shiroi.
Ta-da! Well, Umid, what do you think of my brand new outfit?
Is that a wig?
Yeah, Umid's face kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Well, hold on, Theo. Let's see what he said. Let's see what he says.
Umid's pose and face suggest stonks.
Yeah, and even Luke's is like, this isn't how I planned it.
Like I said, please don't blame us if this goes wrong. You ordered this outfit.
Go ahead.
Oh, it really suits you, Mary.
Same for gritted teeth.
I do like the extra detail that it's clearly too big for her with how the skirt is dragging on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying his hardest to mean it.
Don't you think it's just fabulous?
Look at that, her arms don't even reach out of the sleeves.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, sure, but I don't think you have to go that far to impress others. You look lovely the way you were.
Oh, there you go. Humid is my kind of guy. He prefers girls exactly how they are, with nothing extra on top.
Phrasing.
Well, what I mean is that like no makeup,
Yeah.
no extra clothes, just
More in a case they don't have to, change to impress someone.
yeah. Personally, I am a very. Go ahead, Shiroi.
Oh, that's very sweet of you, Umid. But what I think you're saying is that you don't like the way I am now,
Oh,
is
great.
that it?
No. Believe it or not, it's a genuine question. She doesn't mean anything by that.
For the love of God,
so you like pancakes, you
Answer
hate
quickly.
waffles, do you?
Answer quickly, Umi.
No, see.
It's an Indiana Jones puzzle. You think well
Go ahead, this.
No, I mean, you look lovely and everything.
Oh, does she now? See, that's code for I like you, Baka.
I love you in every you, multiverse.
I love you, 5 ever.
So there you go, and that's the implication that Yuma is also into her, basically. So, cool, I ship it.
I love you, 3000.
No, but I am a firm believer in natural beauty, personally.
He's in for a tough time if Mary keeps up her fashion obsession. Still, though, I mean, it certainly is a unique outfit.
And I'll admit, all joking aside, I think Mary's is probably my favorite outfit just for how out of it is there. It's a shame you didn't show off all the other outfits, though.
Alright, so the final episode, The Legacy of the Azran. Layton and his companions experienced the most thrilling adventure as they sought to uncover the secrets of the Azran. Time for a quick recap.
It's recap time.
I probably would have shown off these outfits
Hey,
about
Layton,
Stormline,
what
but yeah,
puzzle did
let's
you
get
make
to
today?
it.
Hell, I'm exhausted after all that traveling.
Who'd have thought that our search of the Azran would lead us on a treasure hunt all around the world?
And as usual with Layton extras, we get meta with this.
Yep.
The Azran certainly had a lot of secrets.
No one was talking to you.
Now remember this, these are the actors talking, not the characters at this point.
Ah, so this is Dick Layton.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hear that our journey is at an end. Your company has been an absolute...
No, he's talking to the player.
Check
That's,
will be in the
Thank
mail.
you so much for playing my game.
yes.
You know, this might be the last journey the 3 of us take together. But as for me and Layton, we'll have more adventures. So why don't we take this chance to look back over some of the highlights of this
Oh
trip?
no, it's a clip show.
Excellent suggestion, Luke. We
Quick,
need to save
change
money after
channel.
all.
That
It all began when Professor Sycamore sent a letter inviting us to the town of Froenberg.
It's like that joke in the 7 Max cartoon. Now stop talking, you're costing animation.
Oh, I love the snowy landscape. And did you see all those ice floes? They're amazing.
I had pictured
Froenberg.
Froenberg as the perfect ski resort, but it didn't turn out to be much. But it didn't turn out to be much of a tourist hotspot.
No?
Nope.
I mean, we weren't exactly dressed for it, were we?
No, how I kept warm in that heat, I have no idea.
How did Emmy keep warm while wearing a skirt?
Indeed. We eventually found Professor Sycamore deep within an icy cave, along with Aurora, emissary of the Azran.
Indeed.
He died during production.
But hot on our heels came Targent, a secret organization desperate to discover the Azran secret.
Oh my god, the Dwibs, Jova just gave me an idea. Maybe maybe what happened was exactly because everybody in the main cast died during production, like Jova just joked. That's why Dick Layton was booted out for endangering cast members. But then because Lady Layton didn't receive, they had to swallow their pride and bring back Dick Layton to produce. There you go, Dwibs. That's
So
the
you're telling me that the crew were so dedicated that they actually had the actors die.
Yes.
So that's
Dick Layton went beyond Nolan in the sense that, okay, if I'm gonna have dead people in my movie, I need to actually have the actors die.
You know what's amazing? This is on par with Disney actually putting real-life human bones in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Which, yes, that did happen.
Not to mention, Mick Gordon used an instrument, a flute made from a human bone in composing the soundtrack
But Pedro, unfortunately, Pedro, we couldn't get Dick Layton back for that little cameo we had in Layton's Mystery Journey. You know why that cutscene that has him in it has all the fog?
Yes.
That was to hide the fact that it was actually
A stunt
Dick
double.
Layton's brother.
A stunt
It was actually
double.
his brother.
Jeez.
We had to use it to mask
Wait.
his face.
Wait. Well, what about his appearances in the latter part of the anime, though?
No. The game. He didn't cameo in the game. I didn't say he didn't appear in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. We stopped off in London to stock up on supplies first, Professor.
Yes, and Emmy picked out some really nice clothes for Aurora.
And wasted time.
I kind of wish they accompanied these recapping with some steals on the bottom screen.
I would be glad to see the achievement something practical for the journey ahead.
But that was just the beginning of our great adventure.
Also, kind of a shame we didn't have them go to like different locations for the recap as well.
Mm-hmm.
We saw all manner of places, didn't we? Fongai, Sangrio, Torito, and not to mention the nest.
Yes.
Never mind any of those.
Let's not
assholes.
mention the place, but that actual cultist sacrificing people.
Eddie.
You know.
The nest. Home sweet home.
Go ahead.
Don't forget Huglan in Mosinia.
There you go, too.
We made so many new friends.
In the end, however, our journey brought us back full circle to
As usual with these games, too, ask and you shall receive immediately.
Maybe in the end, the real Azran legacy was
The friends will turn on the way, exactly.
I will say this, it was kind of a missed opportunity that we didn't get an ending montage showing, all, what are they doing now for
we
the
got that in
people
the
of each
credits,
nation?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that was stuff that happened because, Sycamore was with them in those scenes. Unless they're
It
confirming
was
that
jumping a
desperately...
bit all over the timeline, Joe. They showcased some scenes from before the adventure started, like Bronev teaching some of his cool stuff, but then a parallel with TV showing Layton teaching, in the university. Stuff like
Well, I'm
that.
talking mainly so about the foreign nations we visited.
There you go, here's
Aurora was our only hope. As long as we can all respect one another, the future should hold no fear.
Well, we're fucked.
That's right. Aurora's hopes and dreams are all hopes and dreams.
Well, remember,
now.
that was the message of the ending, in particular, the fact that...
It's
But
about
nobody came.
It's about as awkward as that bit in Power Rangers where they were wishing for things to happen in the future, no prejudice or anything, and then it cuts and then Time Force. Yeah.
Oh, really?
She was a wonderful friend. We're never going to forget her, even
Oh, yeah.
though we'll never mention her again.
Go ahead, Toots.
Naturally, we must also thank you for accompanying us on this journey, Pedro.
Thank you, Professor.
And everyone else, but they don't matter apparently.
I would have titled it a squirm.
Go ahead.
Yes, it's been great having you with us, Pedro.
Well, I'm the one...
taking all the credit.
Well, I'm the one who's playing.
This is a team effort.
As usual,
There's
at
no
the
I
end,
in team.
as usual at the end, these are vanity projects.
Thank you for the TED Talk to you.
I mean, I don't really have any room to mention. I call my character, Handsome Theo.
Till made his own aura by making himself the protagonist of a Doki
Guess who
Doki
has two
Club.
farms and all the? Guess who has two farms and all the girls?
You're both as bad as each other.
They are
Take
not
care.
so different.
No, you do not get the last word.
Yes, I do. I win.
Oh my God!
I
It's
win.
my
In the end.
Wow, Evie actually got one over on the
The only
professor
way
in
it
the
could have
end.
been worse is if she mentioned what could possibly go wrong.
I can retire in peace.
You just reminded me of Pantio.
Or Babsy.
Alright.
Anyway,
That was it,
Yeah.
everybody. So we're done. So, Dwebs, final thoughts.
Phew.
Actually, do you mind if I say something first?
Go ahead, Dick. What is it?
Well, over these past few years, I may have bickered with all of you.
Yes.
I may have stepped on some toes. Literally.
Figuratively and literally.
Yep.
Yes. And I may have made myself come off as quite a dickhead, but psychologically torturing Luke.
But deep down, you cared.
But over the years, I have come to regard you all as people I met. Dwarf reference.
This is the part where I'm saying, well, guy, I guess Dick Whitten isn't as bad as we thought, or something.
And I sincerely hope that during my acting sabbatical, we can all look back and laugh at all the wonderful memories we created together.
Indeed.
Oh, thank you, Professor.
Except you.
Wow, what did Luke do?
I'm only kidding.
Professor's such a kid that way.
Yes. Now, Emmy, I don't know if I'll ever see you again, but in spite of your sudden yet inevitable betrayal, I sincerely wish you well.
That's nice, I guess.
Say thank you. Luke.
Yes.
Yes, I did all those things to you, but deep down, you surely must know I was looking out for you.
Was that between you having sex with my parents or the constant having me hash out with the mecha?
Why can't it be both?
That's not entirely. Both aren't entirely untrue.
Well, I suppose on the one hand, you did save my life on a few occasions, so... And,
Well,
you know, all in all, it was a barrel of laughs and fun, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Even though we did die.
Yeah, I mean, come on, I'm a dickhead, not a monster.
I'm not a
All right, then.
I'm not a monster,
Well,
Jacob.
With that name, I guess you're a one-eyed monster.
And to Mr. Hino, yes, I do sometimes question your logic.
Well,
Loudly.
yes,
on
and
set.
yes, and
Everyone could hear.
yes, Dick, and it's a pain when I ask you to be nice because I designed your character to be a flat character type.
I was giving him more depth.
No, okay.
In typical
remember,
Bridge show fashion.
remember, the flat character arc, as in the character who changes the world around them. That's basically. So, by flat, I don't mean undeveloped. I mean flat character arc means literally you change the world around you. So you're supposed to be the one who's the voice of reason in this story's Dick. So you constantly acting like, well, a dick. It caused a lot of production issues. And I feel like it would be for the best if you take this sabbatical and maybe I try out some different actors.
Yes, just please, I beg of you, don't recast. Okay, if you have to have, if you're doing any cameos and you can't get a hold of me, use my brother. He could do the work, but please don't recast me wholesale.
Well, how are we supposed to find Escalade?
No, I meant my other acting brother.
Chin.
Yeah, Chin.
Yes, yes, that's we called it that because I kept having to tell him to chin up. But it was an overall pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
That it was, Professor. Here's to the future.
I mean, I've been
Whatever
getting,
it may hold.
and who knows, Dick? Maybe if things, depending on how things go, maybe we can work together again on the next Nintendo console. Who knows?
Yes. What the Wii U?
You're a bit behind the time.
Yeah, okay. Breaking character just for a moment. That's kind of interesting because I've always imagined that the Wii U was actually a perfect platform to have a Layton game because think about it: the gamepad, the touchscreen, and your TV, the top screen. It's perfect.
It was also the perfect opportunity to have a new Pokemon Snap, but Nintendo did not got the memo until,
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right?
So again,
Here's the
it's a more of a common thing than we thought.
Look, here's the simple sum up. It's a tale as old as time. It was a good console, but terribly marketed.
But back to my heart-rending farewell. I had the best of times with you all, and I had the worst of times with you all. And if we ever meet in the future, I will. Well, I can't promise I'll behave. I will promise some good times.
Some
because that's
good
what
times.
Because that is what a true gentleman does.
Indeed.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I do have another rendezvous with Mr. and Mrs. Triton. So, thank you.
Professor, I should warn you, my mother's got a new outfit that, well, she might work into it, so I hope you don't mind feathers.
But that's the best part. So, thank you all, and I hope to see you again in the future. Farewell.
And that's how it ends, with Luke screaming in mental trauma at the thought of his parents fornicating with his long beloved friend.
Alright, that's Dick Layton gone to do stuff with his... never mind. So as for my final thoughts on this game, I'm really conflicted, because on one hand, it is perfectly well put together. The puzzles are, as fine, as good as they always have been, even if I suck at them. And the music is undoubtedly the best part of the game, in my opinion.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Tomohito Nishihara does not miss. He really does not.
And Nami screaming at that scene aside, the actors are all really good in their roles.
Mm-hmm. Which reminds me, this is Lani Minella's last Layton game. Because
crossover.
Yeah, fun fact, she was actually asked on Twitter if she was going to be in the American version of the crossover, and her reply to that tweet was, and I'm quoting her right now, no, I was told that the series had ended. So she wasn't even aware of the crossover, apparently.
Yeah, and again, look, regardless of how you may feel about Minella or whatnot, I do feel like they should have at least let her known about that.
Well, if it helps you, she was brought back for Curious Village HD for the American version, as well as Flora in both versions. So
that is better. It's just, not cool on how they handle things with the crossover. I don't mind Maria Darley being there, but I feel like at the very least, they should have given Lani Minella the heads up. It's kind of a recurring issue with how some voice actors in the industry tend to be handled, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother bout here. At the very least, Level 5 seem to be making it up, so kudos to them on that.
Actually,
do we know she's coming back for New World of Steam?
We know nothing on that yet.
I mean, Curious Village HD does prove that they have her contact. So if they want her in, they can get her. It's just a matter of whether they have a role for her or not.
As I mentioned, Christopher Miller is not really doing much these days anyway.
Go ahead, Wes.
Go on, Jova.
Now I am Jovan.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Go on.
And the graphic, I will say, the actual character models are a massive improvement from the last game. No longer does Layton have acorns in his cheeks. No longer does Luke have a weird-looking chin.
Yeah,
that sounds like a Dr. Seuss rhyme.
And no longer does Emmy... Well, actually, Emmy had the better character model of the three.
Yeah, I actually think Emmy's character model is probably the one that got the least changes, probably.
Yeah, so yeah, character models are also a huge improvement from Miracle Mask.
Indeed. What do you think of the world adventure aspect of it?
I mean, it's nothing I haven't seen before, but I thought it was handled okay. I mean, to be honest though, the overall story, I'll get to the ending in a moment. The overall story, I think, is just fine. It was kind of a prelude of sorts to how serialized the Layton's Mystery Journey cases were. You go around solving a big mystery in one area, and it pretty much stays that way.
What did you think of Rook and Bishop?
I mean, they were the typical bumbling henchmen, although one of them's more bumbling than the other.
But
Sure, why?
But hey, look at it this way. Rook kind of becomes Dwibs the canonical Dick Layton, when you think about it.
Yeah, I guess.
There you go.
I can tell you already, the in-universe parody of Layton in Yokai Watch does not have them as the actors, well.
Right. As for the negatives, Aurora, she exists. Yeah, she doesn't. I mean, yeah, she is she's basically there to be Azran exposition, and unfortunately, I don't really think she gets much else to do or much of a personality other than that. Unfortunately,
I'm curious, Dubs, what did you think of her development with supposedly becoming her own person up until the point where she gets her memories back and then goes, oh crap, we gotta stop this?
Because if you actually pay attention, you'll see that, yes, she's like that at the beginning, like you said, but over the course of the game, she starts showing more humanity as she experiences things with the others.
Like I argue, the entire point of the characterization is that the reason she does it, she makes her choice at the end, to mention about, the sacrifice for reviving everyone else, is because she has witnessed the world and learned, that humanity can deserve a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, guys, I would have appreciated that more if things turned out better, but unfortunately they didn't.
Is this in regards to how we feel that the finale is a bit rushed in that regard?
Yeah, it's trying. Yeah, and that brings me up to the biggest problem with the game, the final act. It tries to do so many things and tries to wrap up so many plot points at once. It doesn't really do that good of a job wrapping up almost any of them. The Emmy one especially got the shortest end of the stick. That was terrible. I was paying attention to these games and trying to pick up on any hints that Emmy was going to do a face heel turn. I didn't see any, and lo and behold, the bit where she does turn out to be evil just comes right the hell out of nowhere. And I mean, it's not even like it even amounts to anything, because like the very next scene, like 5 minutes later, Luke just is like, "Oh, don't worry, she's on our side."
And that's more or less the mood that the tone goes with. Like I said, it feels like they wanted to make this big twist, but then chickened out on the consequences that should have come with it, and also by suggesting that, oh, Emmy's actually on our side, despite the fact that she still does everything in her power to help Bronev to the end.
Yeah, Emmy really takes a massive hit on that front, unfortunately.
What was missing was a scene of her just finally rejecting Bronev, like saying, no, this has gone too far.
Like if she tried to stop him while he was trying to stab Aurora, for example.
Also, yeah, and also, speaking of that bit, actually, there was a bit of, honestly, I think pretty uncharacteristically stupidity from Layton. Like, literally the bit before, Layton was like, I need to think of a way to stop Bronev somehow. And the best he could think of, Bronev, no! And that's it. Really. No psychology, no reasoning, nothing. It's just basically like, don't do it, Dr. Benedict, from Recess School's Out. That bit where it's like, oh, come on, I worked all this hard, and you're going to think I'm going to not do my plan by you saying don't do it? What if we had, please? Yeah, it's Recess School's Out, but played more straight. And I like Recess School's Out, but for a game like this, it's not really something you should be taking inspiration from, and playing it straight, for that matter. And also the whole, again, like I said, Aurora doesn't do much. She doesn't even get to do their own sacrifice at that. But that bit with the terrifying pink light of doom.
My guess is that it's so that she remains alive. I'm speaking strictly from a meta-narrative sense. The idea is so that she'll be alive to solve the final puzzle, which will then bring the others back to life.
only to die later on anyway. And that's the thing. Again, I appreciate you guys trying to throw in your own, for lack of a better term, headcanon and trying to come up with reasonable explanations. But something like that, no, I'm sorry, the game has to come up with it, and it doesn't give any explanation as to why Aurora can't just go in the pink lights. She just can't. That's something I'd expect from David Cage or some other hack writer like that, not Akira Hino. I wonder if he was working on this and the crossover at the same time.
Well,
Pedro,
remember,
don't we have
the
confirmation
crossover
that he
had
was
Takumi
actually?
writing mostly on it.
I mean, he had to be involved as well because half the game was his. That's what I think happened. Hino was trying to focus on two things at once, well, and also a whole bunch of other things Level 5 were releasing at the time. And something had to give. It's like with what happened with Doctor Who and Sherlock, because Stephen Moffat was working on both, and both kind of suffered as a result. And yeah, it's a really bad thing when they do all the emotional stuff. The actors are all earnest in the emotional scenes. Tomohito Nishihara does his piano shtick. Like the tools were there, but it's like what Tio said. I felt nothing with that ending. Like there was too much stupid stuff. I didn't care.
If I may,
That's the saddest part about the ending. Not just because it's extremely convoluted, not because it tries to wrap up a whole bunch of stuff at once. It's a combination of all that just leads to a feeling of nothing.
Let me ask you something, Dubs, if you don't mind. Now that you have both fresh in your mind right now, what do you prefer, Azran Legacy or Layton's Mystery Journey?
Layton's Mystery Journey.
Same. High five.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, I am not going to say that Layton's Mystery Journey doesn't have problems.
Sure.
I mean, naturally with the cases being really separate from one another, some cases are bound to be better than others.
Well, when you're doing an episodic game, of course that's going to be how it works. One's not going to be as good as the others. That's kind of how it is.
That being said, from what I've been playing of Mystery Journey so far, at the very least, it doesn't try and, at least from what I can tell, they don't seem to be setting up too much stuff that they have to wrap up at the end.
No. Well, you already know how it ends because you saw the anime recently with me. So.
Yeah. But okay, what else? Is there anything I haven't mentioned yet?
You already mentioned the music. I mean, unless you have something more to talk about the story, I don't think so.
Do you have a favorite of the nations that they visit?
Sure.
Okay, I'm a bit hard pressed on that one. Honestly, I can't give you an answer to that one. Okay. I did enjoy them in all enough.
Sure, that's fine.
And yeah,
that's fine enough for me.
Anything else, or is that pretty much it?
I can't think of anything else. I've already ranted about all the other questionable aspects earlier. So yeah, that's it for me. If there's one positive, I'm at the very least glad this isn't the last Layton game released, because oh boy, imagine ending a series with this ending.
Like I've said, over in America, and I think Britain, the send-off to Layton was actually the crossover, which,
yes,
again, problems with that ending aside, I do feel like that one's a better send-off, especially because its epilogue is,
also,
again, while not perfect, much more fleshed out in giving players a good send-off, which, I guess it wasn't the case for both series, because ironically, around the time that Layton series had ended, Phoenix's series was making a comeback with Dual Destiny.
Yes.
How about that?
Well, actually, even shortly before Azran Legacy came out, even in Japan, Hino made clear in statements that he wanted to make more after Azran Legacy. It's just that Azran Legacy was the last Hershel game.
I'll admit, part of me does.
I can imagine doing 6 games, in 6 years. Plus, you're working on the 7th with Shu Takumi, and a whole bunch of the other stuff he was doing with Level 5. Because I think by the time Layton was coming to an end, he was working on Yokai Watch.
Not even just that.
Hino was stretched very thin across the company with all the different projects.
Not even just that. Like, I can also imagine that after 6 games of Hershel in a row, he probably wanted to do something else.
Oh, and there was also the more extracurricular projects that he was doing. Like again, I haven't seen Gundam Age.
Well, that was before this, though.
I've heard things.
Well, that was May 2011, 2012. Because he was doing that also in the middle of working on Layton.
Sure.
And all those other projects. But yeah, I haven't seen Gundam Age, but I heard that's like a contender for one of the worst series. So I can imagine doing all that work and for people to hate it. That probably didn't help. That probably didn't help him either.
Sure.
I mean, not to say your art shouldn't be criticised. But even when it's done with the best of intentions,
sure,
criticism, it must still suck hearing people didn't enjoy your work.
Oh, well, that applies to everybody. I'm okay. That's fine. I'm perfectly saying that. Yeah, we should criticize things. I just think people should criticize things for good reasons, which is unfortunately not always the case. No, I'm not talking about the Gundam Age thing. The Gundam Age was well criticized, but there are certain things, like I will argue the criticism towards Ni no Kuni 2 and the criticism towards Little Miss Virginia, which a lot of the criticism that I've seen regarding those 2 games, in my opinion, is very unfair and at times nonsensical. But I don't want to go into a rant about that right now.
I don't remember Ni no Kuni 2 games.
I'm out. Not now, Joe, but long tangent. Go on, Dibs. Go on, Dibs, please.
Me personally, I think. I sometimes do think Hino puts too much responsibility on himself.
That's the thing, Dibs. I genuinely, if you look at the way he talks about stuff, he genuinely he's so passionate to want to get this stuff done. Like, that's genuinely something that I get the feeling he allows his passion to take over, and that's it.
Well, given the work ethic of a Japanese game dev in that regard, probably.
Yeah.
Not to mention nowadays he's having to keep Keiji Inafune in check.
Well, to be fair,
those bags of his aren't going to get any smaller, are they?
To be fair, from what I've looked into, the mobile games Level 5 Concept made were perfectly fine for what they were, and Fantasy Life I so far looks great. So
perhaps Inafune has finally found his true calling.
Plus, there's I think Level 5 Concept made Megaton Musashi as well.
Wait, no. Like, Level 5 Concept only worked. Let me double check. Go on.
I looked on their Wikipedia page. It mentions Megaton Musashi.
Oh, okay, that's
the
fine.
Video game.
I didn't. I didn't know that.
New RPG thing that's coming to Nintendo Switch.
Yes, that's what I just said. Fantasy Life I.
Fantasy Life I. So there you are. I guess that answers my question earlier. I'm guessing that's Akira Hino's delegation company. If there's too much on his plate, he just gives it to Level 5 Concept and trusts Inafune with it.
Well, the thing is, remember that unlike what happened with Mighty Number 9, Keiji Inafune is not in charge now. He's just working as a developer, which, let's face it, he's a much better developer than he is a manager, as we saw for Mighty Number 9, because the problem with Mighty Number 9 was just terrible management of the project altogether. Now at Level 5, Inafune gets to do what he does best, which is just make games, and let somebody else do the management aspect.
Granted, we don't know for sure. Okay, to be fair though, as far as we knew, Keiji Inafune was still the owner of Concept at the time, so Level 5 getting them could mean that Keiji Inafune, while being in charge of Concept, does now get to properly work more directly developer-wise on it, since I guess now Concept are actual developers instead of just being idea men.
Yes.
Remember, originally Concept was, well, a concept company is in that regard.
My guess is
Whereas
when
they would essentially farm
sorry.
out their ideas
Apparently-
to other companies like Indie Creates in terms of Mighty Number 9 to actually develop the games directly.
Yeah.
He's apparently a producer on Fantasy Li-Fi.
Okay.
Oh, and by Japanese standards, that means game director usually.
See, the
doesn't.
thing is, that's the thing. Like, and I keep explaining this to people because, when they worked together on the crossover, they apparently really hit it off and became friends. So.
And hey, apparently the influence stuck around since Great Ace Attorney is more or less the
Maybe.
crossover brought into the main timeline, definitely officially.
Maybe Age Over. Maybe it's going, guys. It's okay. I can fix him, guys. I can fix him. I can fix him.
Well, given that
Most of
Inafune
the time, you cannot fix them.
I guess, given that Inafune is technically part of the reason that the crossover even managed to be a thing, despite the
That's the thing, Shiro.
and also kind of threw it into the mess that it turned out, perhaps felt that he owed him in that regard.
That's the thing, Shiro. If Fantasy Life I turns out to be great, I guess he did. So.
Like, Lord knows, Concept are in a much better state than people were expecting them to be back in the wake of
But,
Mighty Number 9.
Go ahead.
But yeah, that's enough of my hopes for level 5 and by extension level 5 Concept going forward. I'll just end it here now and hope for the best for the future of everybody involved.
All right.
I guess...
Dale?
Sure, because I'm not gonna be nice now.
Sure, go on.
Alright, let's start with the positives. The presentation is fine. Well, okay. Fine in general. Better in some aspects than others. The music is perfectly fine. I have absolutely no complaints on that. It's just interesting that I noted that, again, the accordion seems to be slipping more and more away with each title. I thought it was just a thing that the crossover did, but no, this one also is... a bit lacking on that, even in the credits.
If it absolutely lets Mr. Johnny brings the accordion back in full force.
Maybe that was the idea. The accordion is more symbolic of London itself rather than the rest of the world. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spitballing. As for the art style and the models, they're technically fine on what they want to do now, and as we've said, improvement over the one of the Miracle Mask. Not that I had too much of a problem with those, to be honest. But I still prefer the models from the crossover.
Yeah.
They look better rendered, and the color distribution is more warm and more appeasing to the eye. I don't know how can I explain it more. The one crossover looks more like pastel. I think that's the term to be used. While this one, is a bit more crude, more typical cell shade. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just that. The voice acting also technically doesn't have any major problems. Maybe doing the screams at the end, but that's really just one bit of potentially bad voice direction that we got. And yeah, something that I found in the meantime, apparently, yeah, it was I guess correctly, and Alistair Duncan is the one that voiced Raymond, despite under a pseudonym.
Yeah, that's the constant frustrating thing with Layton VAs. They almost all of them use pseudonyms. Like Troy Baker surprisingly didn't use one in Miracle Mask, but most of them, like Laura Bailey, use their pseudonyms, and as a result, some of these actors can be hard to track down.
I do wonder why they would do that in the first place. Any particular reason?
Well, in Laura Bailey's case, she has used the L. Dietz name in various projects, so I guess there's some projects she would rather not have her full name.
That is true, but I checked for Alistair Duncan. His surname, Archibald Macbeth, yes, really, that's what he's called, really. That's only applicable to this game and to Lost Spectre, because those are the two only games where he voices Raymond. Oh... I wonder what happened.
I really don't
the guy
know.
The guy who plays Desclay also uses a pseudonym, but I managed to track him down. He's a Broadway actor.
But yeah, like I said, aside from that one moment, the voice acting is perfectly serviceable. Really, no complaints there. And I can also mention that the Italian dub is, also on point, just like with the other games. Like I said, the voice tones for my country is closer to the one of the Japanese versions, but it's perfectly fine on its own, even for the distribution character. It's just the fact that some of the voice actors are a bit recycled from each title. To give an idea, the voice actors for Emmy, the same voiced also some characters in some of the mainline trilogy, and will also become the voice of Catriel.
Actually, no, too. It's
I'm talking about my country's dub.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. But so that is a bit jarring. But she's a fine voice actress, for example, on her own. It's not like she gives a bad performance anyway. It's just a matter of recycling. Also, for the gameplay, again, no complaints there. The puzzles are perfectly on point, and also the staple mechanics of every Layton game is there. The mini games, the gatekeeping, resolving invasive puzzles, the difficulty scale, the fact that it respects the intelligence of the player, without hand holding them. There are some puzzles where you can brute force your way through, but others where you will genuinely need to think about it, and means story mandated. And if you waste your hint points at the beginning, it's only your fault. So again, it asks the player some kind of level of commitment without having to be necessarily brutal. So that's actually a balance that I actually like. Sure, we could have done the early Silent Hill approach and have a separate, difficulty specifically for the puzzles. But I get the idea it might make things too complicated for the hardware, considering the amount of puzzles that they do have. So maybe if they did, they'd be able to reduce them and make them similar to the crossover, which did not have that many, unfortunately. But again, I'm just guessing at this point. Now let's get to the plot. Let me say that again, the comparison with Mass Effect 3 is more apt to me, because up until the very end, I absolutely have no problems of any kind. Okay, I could argue that Fungi is a bit of a slightly outdated depiction of potential natives, but they will go out of their way to try to not be, as on the nose as possible. So there is that. I think Layton Brothers is a bit of a more slightly egregious case, I suppose, during the South American episode, but that's something we'll have to get there.
My personal headcanon was that since the natives were using definite British dialect at times, that they were essentially... We did saw
on the map in the trailer that apparently Fungi is in Africa, actually. So
yeah, I'll admit, we were kind of off with some of these. Like, Fungi definitely seemed more like the Amazon, but nope, apparently it was in Africa.
I'm more baffled at the fact that stuff like Cod was in Australia, of all places.
I know, that one seemed much more like,
Scotland.
Or at best, also, for example, Canada, which has the Ogopogo cryptid that could have worked for the monster parallel, but no, not even that. But the locations are perfectly colorful, the characters that you make interesting. Sure, the character design sometimes veers into the uncanny valley quite a lot, like all the people, like the people in COD, for example, But again, it's part of the charm. Like Pedro said, it's a throwback to old school anime, where this kind of thing would be the norm, just for the sake of having the animators having some fun. No, if there's something that I can mention maybe before the end of the game, before the part of the end of the game, is that once again, something that I did notice also in Cooling 2, while not on a 100% coverage, a lot of people who commit villainous actions do not get a comeuppance for their consequences. In this case, specifically, the cultists in Hoogland, who, as far as the people knew, completely sacrificed people, and particularly that stupid shepherd, who constantly harassed Emmy and treated like shit and told her at some point, well, but maybe you should actually become a bride yourself. And none of these gets any kind of comeuppance. When the situation speaks, they're like, oh, that's pretty cool, let's bask in the glory of the moment. And that's it. No. I think something should have happened. Not necessarily kill them, but I don't know, some kind of catharsis, maybe an arrest from the police, a sanction of some kind, something, anything. but nothing. It's the lack of catharsis that is a bit more, infuriating to me than anything, because some of these people legitimately deserved something in return for their actions, but they don't. For example, the egg hunt in Sangrio.
Sangrio. Yeah.
That's actually a good time. And this also allows me to mention something. It's also cool to see Rook and Bishop, as the Biggs and Wedge, kind of like Biggs and Wedge in Final Fantasy VIII, for example. And kind of like them, they just quit at the end.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe he knows a fan of Final Fantasy
Well,
VIII.
again, huge leap of faith that Layton takes at the end. A good thing that it did work out.
Now, Rook and Bishop, I will argue Rook and Bishop are one of the best things about this game. They're incredibly charming, funny, and they have a very sweet ending.
Also, how to forget Keats, the floating magical cat.
Oh yeah, of course. It was a pleasure to serve such an illustrious kitty,
Yeah, that's
Master Keats.
also another thing to talk about. Again, Raymond did not have much of a screen time. We only saw him talking a bit or doing some action in the previous games. So having him more focused right from the get-go was actually probably a good move in order to flesh him out a bit and to see that he's not as cartoonishly evil as Descole would be, because that's what you think would be. Sure, he has the typical undying loyalty of a butler, kind of like Alfred with Batman, but he still has his own thoughts, and feelings. And he's just very into the job and towards, the person that he serves.
And he's a cat dad.
Yeah, a cat. Let me talk also about. I guess I can talk about Aurora while I'm at it, because I don't really, much like with Espella in the crossover, I really don't have a problem with that, and quite honestly, I have no idea where this was coming about, his reasoning, because I can easily see what the character arc is. It's not like a case of headcanoning or metaphoring. Pretty evident, the dialogue explains it well. I'm not sure what else do we need, like a drawing or something. Sure, it could have been elaborated more potentially, but from what we have, it's pretty, serviceable, especially from what the revelations that we know at the end. Like I said, the whole thing about the Azrans being dicks is something that the franchise, has plentifully foreshadowed from the beginning of, Last Spectre. So it wasn't really something that I was expecting, to be a surprise, to be honest. So having, Aurora being this automaton with a conscience, a proper soul, thoughts and feelings, and being a proper person as a result, was also that part of a better surprise. But let's now talk about the ending. I'm gonna start with Emmy while I'm at it, because we mentioned most of the stuff that I think about her.
Yeah.
But as a general thought, okay, let me begin first, commence first. As a general thought of the ending, like I said, talk about the game tripping on the finishing line and face planting in the mud. Because like I said, aside from the thing that I mentioned, the game has been pretty much a blast until this point. But the moment we enter that godforsaken cave in Fromborg at the end, everything crumbles like a castle of cards, and the game desperately tries to rebuild it up, but it just doesn't stand a chance, at least to me. Again, Emmy just quite literally out of nowhere pops up, with the death threat, and almost immediately the game plants on his knees and I'm sorry, please believe me when I say that she's actually still a good character. But again, it's too little too late, and like Dave's also said, she does not much to redeem herself. The best way we see is hesitation again in her words, but otherwise she has that Freudian, that's the best I can say, Freudian attachment to Bronef in obeying his orders, and wishes, despite the fact that he's clearly out of his mind. And it really feels like character assassination at this point. So no, it's really just a sour taste for a character that had absolutely no problems until this point in the prequel series. Like, I don't know. I don't know what was the catalyst, if it was for, they had to rush out the game, or he simply just didn't know how to finish the game. Because, like I said, I think there are some parallels with Rogue Galaxy 2, which I will get in a second.
Again, my diagnosis is they wanted to pull the Emmy twist to explain her lack of presence in the original trilogy. The problem is that Hino wanted to have his cake and eat
And he needed to, yeah.
Despite the revelation, he tries to
He
carry it
wanted
out
the
like, oh
pig
no,
crust, but
Emmy's...
also the hint coins.
Now, Emmy's still our friend, and we love her, and yeah, there is the extra chapter which does imply that she knows what she did was
There's
wrong.
also what you, Jova, mentioned, the fact that she gets also no comeuppance on a jurisdiction level. Like, there's a strong implication that Layton covered up for them, police, which is horribly out of character for Layton, if that's the case. I hope it wasn't.
That's the frustrating thing. It would have been so easy to say she was arrested like the rest. We go on a tearful goodbye.
But because maybe of her actions, their sentence was not as harsh as the one of Bronek, for example. That's my speculation. There could have been so many different kind of ways this could have been, softened up in any kind of way. But it feels like they just went through the laziest route possible, and that's the disappointing thing. Because, as Pedro mentioned, in comparison, for example, with when we talk about the comparison between Titanic adaptations, in this case, we should expect better for a case like this.
With the crossover, I could at least buy that they were having trouble trying to rectify a very complex ending, and they tried to come out clean, but obviously got scorched.
I have to get to that in a sec.
But, okay, my main point is in contrast, though, like you said, this feels like it was so obvious a better way to do it, but they just didn't, for whatever reason.
Where was I? Right, the comparison with Rogue Galaxy that I mentioned, I will describe it in a general way, because maybe some people still don't know much about the plot, but 1/3 of that game is very similar to this one. The characters have to scour around the galaxy instead of a world, just like our galaxy, to find specific MacGuffins that will help them discover the secret of an ancient civilization by opening up a door towards it. And right as they collect them, a character from the team who, fairly enough, has been suspicious enough as soon as they showed up, betrays them, steals the artifacts, and tries to give them to the villain. However, the staggering difference is that the character in Rogue Galaxy not only had this foreshadow right from a mile away that something like this was going to happen, not only there is some tangible animosity with the party, before and after, but not only the villain has a very much better reason to hold this character in their hands, because they have in hostage, his partner, who, as the game tells multiple times, the betrayer loves very dearly. It's probably the one thing that he loves the most in his entire life. So there's a very good reason why he will do that. Not only, the rejoining the party comes out of a necessity more than, just saying, oh, I'm good again. But after that, they don't just willy-nilly say, oh, we're good to go. It's more of a case of, no, we're keeping you on watch and you will have to earn again. Kinda a bit like Zuko in Book 3 of Avatar Last Airbender, just a bit more bridged. But it's certainly better than this. And I don't know if wanted to be deliberately referencing events, or if it's simply a case of similar plot elements, common cliches and everything. And it's just, an isms that he prefers to do, for the matter.
Most likely that, yeah.
But the parallel is still present, and I'm sorry, it feels like a cheap imitation in comparison with this.
Oh no, Rogue Galaxy does this better, definitely. That's not even... I don't think that...
and it's not taking anything out.
Also, Rogue Galaxy has space pirates, so that's kind of also a leg up,
that's an aesthetic.
Obviously, I'm joking.
But now let's get to the thing that I personally not liking, even in this old ending. The whole set of twists about the family, as Don Toretto will say. Let me say this. I don't have a problem with Descole being revealed to be Bronev's son. The entire reason of the animosity being Bronev being a neglectful father, or because of an accident, and Descole dedicated his entire life to avenge that, which will explain his motivation. But why the fuck did we need to attach this to Layton himself is beyond me. Like, for a simple general reason that the ending itself says, and I don't need to elaborate much about it, it's irrelevant and inconsequential to say the least. Layton never calls Descole his brother, outright states that he refuses to call Bronen his father, and towards the end, I'm sorry that you like that scene, Pedro, but the scene where he basically cements is the way almost, it's like one step closer to turning to the camera and telling that name has no significance to me. That is to me is the game spelling out to me this twist was pointless and you don't have to care about it. And as someone who actually has come to learn to appreciate the twist about the games, I would feel offended by it. But there's also this other major problem. The twists, as we mentioned in the past, the twists about the games so far, including the crossover, has been squarely focused about the locations. You know, the location is important. The location is another character in his own right. You know, and that is the most important thing. Sure, Layton might be involved tangentially in some kind of manner, like in Lost Future, but that would be kind of a garnish at the best and not the focus. In here, instead, we sacrifice almost the entirety of the twist about the locations. We have something when it comes to the episodic nature of each individual, you know, presence of cities or villages. And then the ultimate twist about the Azrans being dicks, which, like I said, you could see that coming a mile away as soon as Lance Spectre, to be honest. If that's supposed to be a surprise, I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. So that leaves the twist of being squarely about the family. And again, this did not really... I personally did not need it. Miracle Mask provided a perfectly good explanation of Hershel having a family that loves him, you know? And instead having to put this retcon in it, that not only tells that his name is not even real, you know, not even by his own choice, but the very choice of someone else, you know, and also that the fact that his parents were someone else, someone who he himself, as he mentioned, has no emotional attachment to of any kind. Sure, you get the line at the end where he says to Bronet, maybe someday we will, you know, encounter each other as archaeologists and friends. I found very unlikely because considering his crime, Bronet should get, you know, the lifetime jail treatment, if you ask me, but I don't know.
That's the thing. Layton's series tends to be kind of lenient on its villains. Clyde got a pretty damn easy
Considering what happened to
Bloom,
Bloom, which I will get also in a second since I forgot about him. Considering what happened to Bloom, I get the idea. Again, it's another thing of the villains getting away with most of the stuff they did, or in case of punishment, being not as severe as it should be. This is another thing that makes me appreciate a bit more the Ni no Kuni movie. For all his problems, that one manages to have a straightforward villain who gets what he fucking deserves, a sword in the fucking head. You know?
Damn, that's hardcore by level 5 standards.
You know. By the way, also, to spoiler a bit, the Ni no Kuni movie has also something similar to this, like an out-of-nowhere family-related twist towards the end, which, in that case, it's really... Like, if you think this is rushed, you have seen nothing.
Yeah, the Ni no Kuni movie...
I genuinely enjoy still the Ni no Kuni movie, but even I cannot defend that.
That movie's ass, I'm sorry.
It is. It is.
God, I've heard so much about it. I really need to see this movie.
It's one of those things, Joe. But the nicest thing I've heard someone say about the movie was it was okay. Like that's like the nicest thing I've heard someone say about that movie, because that movie's crap.
I remember when...
Go on.
To sum it up very quickly for you, Jova, I remember when it first came out, Pedro described it as, you know those parodies of Level 5's other works that you see in Yokai Watch on TV in the background? That's what the movie is.
Yeah, basically.
That's what it felt like.
Oh.
Again, I still enjoy it in the end, and one of the reasons, like I said, is proper catharsis when it comes to the villains, but... let me get back on track. And to mention it quickly, yes, that's another thing that I mentioned on the game. Bloom, surprisingly enough, gets taken away very easily and very early on. I don't mind the fact that, you know, he had to be confronted eventually, sure. But I was hoping he was more, you know, kept more throughout the game. Maybe something of a recurring theme. Maybe his influence was present, you know, as a Sergeant Mole for Scotland Yard, you know, during each of the locations that... they visit, you know. But no. Instead, it's basically this one final boss when you get down to it. It's there for their first visit in London. They take him out very easily, and then we see just an episode at the end that mentions, "Oh, by the way, I got out of jail thanks to being an informant for the police," which leads to another thing. Groski has almost nothing to do in this game, and I don't understand why.
To be fair, in none of the prequels did he have much to do to begin with them.
Okay, at the very least. I don't remember 100% the games, fair enough, but I distinctly remember when in the movies presence was much,
Oh yeah, in the movie, yes. In the games themselves, not really.
I thought he had more of a role in Miracle Mask.
In here, it really just feels like I don't think we should have, I think another thing recurring would have been him being on chasing, Rook and Bishop, which would have explained him never getting to Targent, and at the same time then having pressure into getting the egg. I think it could have worked out for the better while incorporating still the character. It really feels to me more of a case of they did not know much what to do with him.
You do raise a good point. I could have actually seen that as Rook and Bishop ultimately telling him, hey, things are going down in Thornburg, and that would explain why, because, well, I'm normally fine with it. Even I have to raise an eyebrow at the fact that he just shows up out of nowhere to arrest Bronev and, I guess, whatever members of Targent remain since...
There's also that weird as fuck subplot about the chief of police, Carmichael, I think it's called, which gives the hint that he has his own agenda and he wants to keep power for himself, but that's never reprised in any way whatsoever. We do know by the time of Layton Brothers that there's definitely a lot of corruption in Scotland Yard, but I don't think it's supposed to be a follow-up from this. But anyway, let me get back to the ending. Again, and because of all of these factors that I did mention, if now the game shows all of these tragic scenes at the end about Descole being separated from his entire family, about Bronev seeing the loss of his life, about Aurora having to sacrifice everyone dying by being hit by a purple beam, by purple beams and everything, the war almost getting destroyed. And again, I felt nothing. Going from Miracle Mask and its very emotional scene about
Henry.
And about Henry and
Randall.
Thank you, Henry and Randall. That very emotional scene that serves as the cusp, of all the twists of the game. To this, where he tries also very hard, but because of the either rashness or complete sourness of this twist, this means nothing. And again, the game ends on this note that feels bittersweet, but to me it feels sour at best, if not almost completely bitter. Thank God the Hershel games are not over, because again, it's a good thing that this was not I think the worst thing they could have done. The only way they could have topped this, in my opinion, to make this worse, if while separated from Luke, Hershel died, and for his legacy, Descole took his appearance, retroactively basically saying that the Layton that we follow for the first 3 games is not the real Layton.
Oh God, you reminded me of something with that one.
I'm gonna give you another reference just now, Jova. The other thing that I could have mentioned is something that it's more tongue-in-cheek parody, both at the end of this and in Yokai Watch, is if the final twist, ultimately was basically saying that these plots that we follow are an in-universe show, and all of the characters are actors, and the adventures that they live in are not real. Which is
God, I know exactly what you're referencing.
If you know the game that I'm referencing, you know. But again, thank goodness that at least they don't do that. But still, again, at best, the twist about families feels superfluous, unnecessary, and not really for Hershel's character. Hershel's character was perfectly fine with what we got to know about him in Lost Future and in Miracle Mask. We did not need more. This is unnecessary baggage that really does not help me. This also doesn't help the fact that Bronev, as we mentioned, it almost doesn't show up at all for the entire game, despite the fact that a lot of the emotional core things are about him, and everything. I don't know. It really feels like we mentioned, they just wanted to have, every single emotional beat they could have, but at the same time they could not do it. And this is also why the crossover to me is still a better game overall, because for its twist, despite all the problems that the twist had, it still felt more in line with the rest of the the Layton games than this, and it felt more like appropriate for the kind of franchise that it does. He's trying to do something different, and it didn't really work out. So there is that. I'm glad that the franchise continues, not just with Hershel, but also, of course, with Layton Brothers and with the Layton's Mystery Journey, which I agree with Pedro. I did not really deserve the fact that he got. I don't even think it's particularly that bad of a game. It's perfectly serviceable, just like many others. But again, I feel also I hear people complaining about the twist formula in general, which this is what I don't understand, in general on my own. So maybe I just don't get, a lot of the fandom.
Admittedly, usually when people are talking about the twist format, they're talking more so about the latent overall plot twist within, the whole town or whatnot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's the thing, Joe. But Layton's Mystery Journey doesn't have any of that. In fact, anytime the potential idea of a town being fake, the game will even make fun of that.
That's usually what the anime does in general, anyway.
No, I can tell that the game does that too.
Well,
to its credit,
it's not too different then.
To its credit, while it does do that, I don't think that was the sole issue people had. So, while Layton's Mystery Journey thankfully seems to have done that better, again, as far as I know, there might have been other details that sort of bugged people more. Again, this is why I feel that it's best that when companies are listening to feedback, they should do their best to get a nice, nuanced detail instead of just assuming, oh, people didn't like this. That means that they dislike every aspect of this. So
That's
in the next game,
entirely.
we will
Which is also
absolutely
another
throw
thing
out the
that I
baby
was
with the
mentioning
bathwater.
with these endings.
That's the
I don't
thing.
want-
Well, I don't want to go into to a tangent. Never mind. Go on.
I don't want these characters, just because they've been written badly at the end, to just go away. Like if you bother to mention that both Emmy and Descole are still alive, I hope they can still show up in the future to contribute in some kind of fashion. Sure, you run into the risk of saying, "Oh, newcomers will not understand," but if I have to be honest, the games on their own are relatively accessible, either via mobile or via emulation, or at the best, yeah, I'm sorry. For these kind of games, you can get easy recaps or something. Like the game can easily do something easy without having to handhold people who might not know who characters that show up, are. It worked out for the most part in the movie anyway. So who knows? But yeah, I think I'm pretty much done. As a game on its own, it's perfectly as good as the other Layton games. Perfectly fine. As a conclusion on prequel trilogy, severely disappointing. As a story on its own, good for the most part. Just basically skip the ending. A bit like at the time we're recording the Final Fantasy VII remake. When you really get down to it, just have to see what the future entails for both franchises.
Very interesting parallel.
All right. She right?
All right. Well, for the most part, I very much enjoyed this. The gameplay itself is really good. Like, I'm not a puzzle person. Like, some of it is just because it's not my thing, and the other part is just because, I can't actually do them for accessibility reasons. But, like, the story is really why I'm here for this series, and yeah, for almost all the game, it's actually really good. And I completely disagree that this is worse off than the crossover, because this was just a bit at the end, whereas the crossover, it was hours of agonizing, slow torture for more than one chapter. So it was like having to deal with like maybe an hour and a bit of nonsense here is whatever. I'm sorry. Like, the crossover is worse when it comes.
Argument. It's not always about the time length, but about the potency as well. The crossover, yes, dragged out. However, those twists actually do get the time to set in, whereas Azran Legacy's twists, I feel, have a double problem. Because they're so rushed, you don't get to see them actually weigh on the characters like they should, which in turn kind of makes the twist suck, not to mention the fact that almost none of the twists had any foreshadowing. The crossover can at least say it had some foreshadowing. Weak foreshadowing, yes, but some foreshadowing at least. And also, keep in mind, Azran Legacy had a lot more baggage of being the ending to a whole trilogy, whereas the crossover was completely its own beast. That's
well,
just
for
my
me, it's
take.
more. For me, it's more. I know the ending is in sight versus how long is this going to go on? Please just wrap this shit up
There,
now.
Sonic. There.
How long is this going to go on?
Seriously, that's where I'm coming from with this.
God bless Sonic 06. It had some memorable quotes.
Yes. Fitting for a variety of occasions. But anyway, the twists themselves. There was a line for Emmys that I like. If they want to make Emmy a traitor, that's whatever. But like, there's a different way you could have gone about it, because why didn't she hesitate? Because like, this is at the end of a whole honkin' trilogy plus a movie. You have. She says that her uncle is the only thing she has in this world, but she spent all this time with Luke and Layton. And we know she cares about them, so it's like she just jumped straight in and didn't even hesitate, which makes no sense whatsoever. I don't...
Yeah.
It's like that line that they, like... Because that was her answer to Layton asking, why are you doing this? It's like, it's such a flimsy one. I do believe that they were struggling to figure out what to do with her.
Yeah.
For this, like, me and Pedro already discussed this before, but that line makes it pretty, like, it's kind of the final nail for that one for me.
It's like I said.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go on. No,
Like
you're
I
fine.
said,
Go on.
making her a bad guy wasn't the issue, but at the end of the day, they could not commit. COMMM, as Dr. Cox would put it, commit. Like, yes, okay, she's a bad guy. Yet, her being a bad guy just amounts to her holding Luke and holding an ice pick, and then almost immediately, the narrative tries to push that, oh, Emmy actually didn't really mean it. She wouldn't have gone through with it, which...
But then later on in the extra chapters, she's like, yeah, I totally did do it.
That's the thing.
Sorry.
That's the thing. Don't worry, I'll be quick. There's the thing, Jova. Like, I would even go as far as to say that no, like, I have a problem with making Amy a bad guy, period, regardless of how it's done, because then what the fuck was the point of that entire chapter where we play as her in Last Spectre? Like, so basically, we never, like, because when I first played Last Spectre, one of the first things I thought was, ooh, it's going to be fun to see how they're going to play out this. Well, like, is Hershel going to find out about this reason why she became his assistant? No, it's like,
she never did tell him, did she?
Yeah, that backstory that we learned in Last Spectre has zero relevance. It's like, forgot about that, and that's what that to me. That's like, so basically what you're telling me is that the idea of Amy becoming his assistant because she felt she owed him because of the good deed he did for her was basically now been invalidated. Now that so to me, making Amy a bad guy in general is just a bad idea, period, regardless of
They
execution.
really screwed over her character with
Well,
this.
Okay, hear me out. You could have that backstory, but also have her be a bad guy. Again, have it be that while her mission was to be an undercover operative, that she genuinely does want to help the professor because of what he did for her. And throughout the series, she has been having a conflicted feeling. This can actually be something that's revealed in Azran Legacy.
That's what
and
I'm
then
saying,
shown-
but they never do. She
Yeah.
doesn't hesitate whatsoever.
Yeah, the problem there, Jova.
Exactly,
The problem there,
that's my
Jova.
point.
The problem there, Jova. You're describing a what if. That's the thing.
A what if that should have been the if. You know?
Well, guys, I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just explaining that, again, Emmy being a bad guy could have worked if they didn't pull off the twist in the most hackneyed way possible and then immediately try to backtrack away from her being a bad guy. That arguably just made things worse, honestly.
Yeah. Go on, Shuri.
As for the others,
What do you think about the Duskblade turns out to be Hershel's brother, plus they're both sons of Bronov thing?
I'll get to the Bronov one in a little bit, but as for Duskblade being his brother, I'm fine with that.
What did you think about Duskblade being the real Hershel Layton?
Well, actually, no. His name is Hershel Bronov. The Layton name came from his adopted parents. See, the idea that the idea that they say this in the message, like, oh, this is where I got my name Hershel Layton from. These names that I hold so dear. So he got the Hershel from his brother, who did that noble thing of giving him
him to have the better life.
Yeah.
Because clearly Duskblade was the one who was actually adopted.
Combined with the fact that he got his Layton surname from his adopted parents who raised him so lovingly. That's why he says that line in that ending scene, "My name is Hershel Layton, I need no other name."
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that speech personally, because like he kept it in the first place, and probably still in an extent to honor his brother, who he didn't really know was like there with him the entire time throughout this journey. But like ever since he was given that name, it was probably very precious to him. So the whole "I need no other name," despite knowing the truth about Duskblade now, yeah, it makes sense that he'd still want to keep that name, because like Duskblade, for obvious reasons, doesn't want anything to do with his family name either.
Not to me. Yeah,
so
like that.
It makes sense to me. I don't see the problem with that.
The idea, the basic idea that Hino's clearly going for is that despite everything, the fact that he did that sacrifice for him means that now the name Hershel is all the more valuable to him because of what it represents, his noble gesture in that flashback. That's what that name represents.
Yeah. I feel like with the Bronov stuff, it's even more vague than the Emmy stuff, to be honest, because it's never really foreshadowed throughout the trilogy at any point. Like, it's one of those things where it feels like, oh, we have these vague things about these characters, and we need something to fill in those blanks now that it's time to reveal them. I feel like they didn't have... They probably didn't just come up with it last minute, but I feel like it wasn't in the planning, if that makes sense.
Keep in mind one thing I hinted earlier also. As nice as visiting all the places across the world were, we could have arguably have made a more sequential story, which, again, have it be across the world, but we could have arguably have had it been a bit more scripted. I do get that part of the reason we have to be a bit looser on the narrative is because it's more or less you can pick whichever world you go to in that regard. So in order to, have stuff line up, they couldn't necessarily have, this specific dialogue take here or there without that potentially being a spoiler thing, which, some games like Breath of the Wild have fallen into, but I digress on that regard.
Foreshadowing throughout the trilogy as a whole, because there's a lot of stuff that carries over between the games.
I was going somewhere with that. Have bits of Azran Legacy tie back to bits from the previous games to retroactively make it so that some of the details we saw in them were foreshadowing. Some might call foul, but when done well, a retcon like that can be used as a good trick to build off of some stuff here and there. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 is actually a prequel to Red Dead Redemption, but it adds more to Red Dead Redemption's lore by actually taking certain quotes that a lot of characters say and attributing them to a new character, the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2.
A good example.
I know about those games.
Another example, just to use one that Shira is familiar with, since we're talking to her right now, is of course Monsters University, which is fortunately now getting a lot more praise and recognition years after the fact, where now Mike's overly disregard for Bo in the first movie because of wanting to keep his job makes more sense because of all the hard work they had to get to that point, as well as, of course, giving us the story of how Mike and Sully became friends, which makes their friendship in the first movie all the more sweet.
I think you said it improved the original movie for you because you didn't like Mike at all.
No, I liked Mike. I just felt like he could be a bit too mean-spirited towards Bo, but now I can see this more as a flaw, an intention. Again, not by intention of Pete Docter. Obviously, when Pete Docter wrote the original movie in 2001, he didn't think of.
He wasn't thinking about that.
But I will argue Dan Scanlon did a good job in, fixing the holes there. Not to mention, like I said, remember, Messenger Inc. literally starts with, once again, Mike coaching Sully, and when you watch that scene with the context of Muslim University, it's all the better to see how this is continuing. Mike's guidance of Sully continues. And it adds a lot more to stuff. So yeah, like Jova just said, in a prequel, you can actually do a great job of that stuff if you know what you're doing.
And like I said, this can also work sequel-wise. Just because a lot of retcons turn out to be bad does not mean they have to be bad. Believe it or not, retcons are first and foremost meant to be a good thing. They are stuff that can retroactively add on to the story and add details to it. Again, as cool as it was to visit all these different lands, imagine, what if we had more of a sequence story? Let's say Emmy actually betrays us halfway through, and then after that, at some point, Sycamore reveals himself to be Descalay, who then becomes our ally for a good amount of time. Like I mentioned, the tiny bit we work with Descalay is like, I think, 10 minutes of actual gameplay.
Which is kind of sad, because Pedro's right. He's pretty much one of the best characters in this game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I said, there's a ton, but like, I have a lot of the revelations maybe happen across, the course by the halfway point of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can spend more of it building up on stuff and see how we got to this point. Maybe with Emmy, revealing stuff and bits here and there. And while she is obviously drinking the Kool-Aid from Bronev, maybe over time have us wear away at her devotion to Bronev. To the point where she can eventually try to redeem herself, either by sacrifice or by completely turning on Bronev, but still having to turn herself in with the rest. Maybe she gets a reduced sentence, but it's obvious enough that the relationship is not going to be the same, and she and Layton agree to let her go as his assistant.
And, just to cover all bases with that one, actually, because you just reminded me, maybe she didn't hesitate because, we all know, it's very clear, long before that point, that Bronev has gone completely cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. But maybe she didn't hesitate because she genuinely wants to help him in a way. She's trying to ease him into getting off this bullshit. But I don't know. When you put it in the context of everything else, I still don't like the Emmy plot twist at all. The Layton brothers, for lack of a better term, is fine. That's all fine by me. But yeah, I don't really care for Bronev being their father. It does explain Descalay's motivations, but I don't know. It just feels like we're gonna make this a thing, and that was the end of it, really.
Like I mentioned. Yeah, so supposedly Targent was better before Bronev warped them into something bad. Except no, Targent kidnapped and enslaved Bronev in the first place. So what the hell was Rook even talking about when he said that Bronev messed with Targent? It sounds like Targent was messed up. Again, I can't help but get that feeling that the writers weren't all seeing eye to eye in regards to how the ending reveals would come.
I don't know.
Speaking of that, Shiroi, what do you think of Rook and Bishop?
I'll get to that in a second. I don't think, going back to Emmy for a little bit, but at the very end of the game, I don't think Layton really had to cover up for anything. I know the game doesn't tell us at all, and it's all just massive assumption on our part, but as far as we know, she was only sending information to Bronev. Like, she wasn't directly involved. Like, she was just a mole in that sense. Like, obviously there are crimes here with that, but I don't know, probably not like long-term jail time like Bronev would get. Like, I don't think there was any need for a cover-up on Layton's part. I don't know, that just seems weird. Like, but, I feel like that's it for the plot twists. But, Rook and Bishop are fun. It's just a nice bit of comic relief amongst all this. It was nice to visit different places, even though that probably did hinder the plot a little bit for reasons Jova mentioned, but I don't think it was that bad. The music is great. I always love the music for this series. What else?
What do you think of the graphics? Do you think they're Teo prefers Teo and Joe prefer the crossovers models for Layton and Luke? What do you think?
I was fine with them. Like, I guess that's more just a preference thing because, you know, but, like, yeah, there's nothing really wrong with them. I guess it's just a style preference. There's only one game where the 3D models have actually been bad for these characters. So, I mean, to be fair, that was an awkward transition period.
Not to mention, one thing that people keep forgetting is that Miracle Mask was actually a launch game for the 3DS. In Japan, yes, but a launch game nonetheless.
Again, though, like, I'm sorry, the renderings on those, like, even for a launch game, completely missing the nose is just... that's Uncanny Valley stuff.
But, yeah, I think that's it for this. Lost Future is probably the better finale for a trilogy.
Oh, yeah,
we'll have to see what New World of Steam does and whether that will be just one last game for a good while if Hino decides to do anything else, or if it's going to be a start for a new trilogy or a duology. We don't know. This game's not out till next year at least. So
question, Shiroi. We have not experienced Layton's Mystery Journey yet. You have, however, seen the Layton anime, which is an adaptation of that game anyway. All the cases from that game are there, including even the ending and all the twists and all the stuff. So you already know the story. What do you think? The Lady Layton storyline is more solid than this?
Yes.
Okay.
I assume like it's roughly the same in the games.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe a little more wordy because it is like
the anime expands upon certain, like when the anime is adapting episodes from the game, it takes the advantage of the opportunity to expand upon some stuff. Maybe in the game where maybe could have been more fleshed out. Basically, it goes out of it to also improve aside from adapt. But it's basically an adaptation, a straightforward one.
Like I don't know about the game, but as far as the story goes, I really enjoyed it. I think it's actually really good, and if people genuinely think it's the worst game, I don't know what you're smoking, but I don't want any of it.
That's the thing, Shiroi.
Really need to investigate this.
That's the thing, Shiroi. Like, if you check out the Destructoid review of Layton's Mystery Journey, the reviewer calls Kat a Mary Sue.
Wow,
what?
Really?
Okay. Oh, hold on. Was that sarcastic? Hold on. Was that sarcastic review you showed me?
No. That's Ni no Kuni 2 you're thinking of. Okay, I think I'm going off on too much of a tangent. Keep going, Shiroi, please.
Yeah, that's it. I feel like that's it for me. Like, we'll see the actual game version of that story eventually. But yeah, I'm looking forward to actually seeing that story again, I guess. And yeah, this game was actually really enjoyable for the most part, and I do understand why it might be sour to some as a trilogy finale. And again, Lost Future is the better one. But yeah, it's still
Definitely.
for the most part a very good experience, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who's next?
Jovan.
All right. So, yeah, this was certainly a journey. It was definitely a legacy of the Azran.
That was it, Layton. You were the Azran legacy all along.
You know, the sad thing is that would actually probably been better than some of the twists. But you know what? Okay. I think the best way I can sum it up is I was enjoying the ride until it crumpled upon itself. Which, ironically enough, is similar to the crossover. The difference being, the crossover was at least able to pick up the pieces somewhat after it made a mess. Azran Legacy does not get that from me, for several reasons. First off, this ending effectively does cause damage and arguably character assassination across the course of a trilogy plus a movie. So like I said, technically a quadrilogy if we count that, but I digress. Like, it had way more pressure put on it than the crossover's ending did, and I do feel that it failed more. But let me talk about the good first. I do like the art style in this game. I still prefer the Layton aesthetic done in the crossover. I feel like that is probably actually the best evolution of Layton so far. New World of Steam notwithstanding. We'll have to wait and see how that does in full. But yeah, no, the game definitely looks good. It would be impossible for it not to be an improvement from Miracle Mask, but we've already beaten that horse to the ground, so yeah, looks good. The music, also, as usual, pretty stellar and great. Also, nice dear Tomohito Noshura. I usually say his name better, but it's nice to hear the composer actually using a saxophone. So, yeah, that's dandy. So, as for the story, I'd say it's good, but overall I wouldn't call it great. Now, part of this may be to fit, of course, the open world narrative here. A lot of it is more so serialized, sort of mini episodes of characters doing stuff in different lands to get the eggs. Not necessarily bad stuff. There is still a ton to be entertained by, but I wouldn't call it the series' most strong stuff. Granted, like I said, I do feel like the crossover has definitely been the latent property to get me to care the most about the NPCs. That is not to say that I don't normally care about NPCs in Layton games, but you could definitely tell that Shu Takumi was there to flesh them out to the umph degree. And granted, the crossover does have that little extra feature of characters even getting to show up during trials, so I won't hold it completely against this. That being said, part of me feels like we could have done a bit more with stuff. I already explained part of my idea during Shiroi's Final Thoughts, so I won't go into a heavy repeat of that, but I do feel like we could have had more of a fleshed out story, one that does have the hijinks, and who knows, maybe they could have actually written 2 different scripts for some of the worlds. Like, you go to some of the worlds, you have the regular scripts, but then depending on which worlds you chose here or there, and you know, when, like, say, a betrayal of Emmy or Desclay's reveal happens, we get, you know, a different script for those other ones. Yes, I know that's a pretty ambitious one and not always guaranteed, but it could have been a neat idea if they did want to have their cake and eat it. Because, yeah, that's the best way to sum up this game. They wanted to have their cake and eat it. Or as good and fun as the different worlds and characters you will meet with them, along with the different mechanics and iconic puzzle gameplay are, once we get to that ending, oh boy. Okay. The crossovers, as I've already said, was probably a more painful experience for me in its debut. Though part of that was due to my, you know, big, what's the word I'm thinking of? Involvement with both of the series in that regard. Azran Legacies may not have hurt me at first, but it's the type where the more I think about it, the more it hurts. So coming to it and actually seeing it in motion is like watching a train crash. You can't look away. You want to help, but there's nothing you can do unless you're Will Smith and Hancock. Oh wait, no, he kind of caused that train crash. But I digress.
Nobody remembers Hancock these days.
So what you're saying, Jova,
I
is...
remember it, so you don't have to.
So what you're saying, Jova, is... Huh? Hino? Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Okay, so the ending. So, again, what is Targent? Well, Targent is apparently these not Nazis, because, yeah, they kind of operate a lot like Nazis, complete with kidnapping, enslaving, forcing scientists to do their bidding and whatnot. I guess they don't have anything like the camps, but Jesus, still...
See, again, Joe, to put in comparison again to Ghibli movies, they are throwback to militarized groups like similar to, say pirates, Sky Pirates, or military occupations from the older Ghibli movies. Some of these were actually parallels to the Third Reich, that is true, but not necessarily all of them, and they were just, evil in their own right.
I compare them more to Nazis because they have the delusional idea that they are truly doing what is best for the world, whereas pirates, and that's not to say that some pirates didn't have that messed up idea, but most pirates you see in media tend to be pretty honest about themselves in that regard. They know what they are, and they're often proud of it. These guys to a similar extent, but they have that fanatical devotion to a leader and everything.
Yeah,
even going as far as to say that they absolutely have to have a leader. Even though, again, sorry Swift and company, but yeah, your life's purpose is down the drain with the Azran legacy not only destroyed, but revealed to be absolutely lethal if unleashed. God damn. Which, again, does make me wonder if that scene with Swift was written before the actual ending was conceived. Because, again, damn. And that is a thing. With all the build-up there is, a lot of the resolutions of characters don't really feel like they're there. Bloom, a character who's handled off relatively easily, given the build-up we got to him in the previous game, just folds like a cheap suit on his own organization. Grosky, for all the build-up we get about, the danger and how he may be getting a divorce with his wife, in the end it's just, oh, here he is to arrest Targent. And he gets a promotion. Woohoo! I mean, don't get me wrong, these are interesting things, but the build-up does not line up with the results. It'd be like, if per se you had, like, say, a plot with Gumshoe. He says he's gonna do a thing, and then the next thing you cut to, it's just, oh, the case has been solved, and we don't even really see what he did.
Comparison on what you just said. The Ace Attorney anime, where instead of beating up the Yakuza thugs, he just strolls calmly and then says, everyone get outside. That was such a disappointment.
That was a shame that they did that. It boggles my mind. Well, okay, that's first season of the anime. That, for all its problems, the one thing season 1 managed to handle the best was actually making Turnabout Big Top good, but arguably everything else worse. But that is another story for probably a later time. But yeah, no, that is a good, very good comparison. And it's a shame, too. Like, compare this to the original trilogy. Xiaomi got involved enough in the plot so that you could arguably see, okay, this is how we got to this point, and hey, it actually did feel like he was doing stuff and accomplishing it at that as well. Grosky is very boisterous, and he is capable. It's just that I feel like we don't get to see the proper resolution. And it's not just him. Like I've mentioned, the Emmy thing. Oh dear lord, the Emmy thing. How the hell did we get here? Well, it turns out Emmy is Bronev's niece, possibly adopted or something. Don't know what this makes her, Layton's relative or whatnot.
It's like the scene in Crash to Sand. My daughter, niece.
And, like, look, we all have said it, but it bears repeating. They tried to pull a fast one with her by going, oh my god, she's a bad guy. Actually, not really. Except no, level 5. You can't do an easy take back from somebody who literally holds an ice pick to a kid's neck like that. Luke was terrified and will probably be traumatized. And I'm sorry, the narrative writes off as if Luke has gaslit himself into believing that Emmy was a good guy. And yeah, I get it. She does admit that what she did was wrong. But one, that's in an extra chapter that you might miss. And two, it reads as a last-minute saving throw than an actual natural development. Because keep in mind, Emmy did not hesitate in doing bad stuff. She did not hesitate when Bronov apparently sacrificed his own men off screen, and she sure as heck didn't stop him from stabbing what she knew to just be a little helpless girl. Sure, said girl turned out to be a golem, which kind of feels like a bit of an ass pull with the whole sudden revelation that, oh yeah, Azrans have golems, and also a way to keep the game, not rated T for absolutely stabbing an actual girl. But you get where I'm coming from. It feels like Hino was afraid at the risk of people not liking Emmy, which is ironic because in doing it this way, Emmy ended up pissing a lot of people off. And it is character assassination. So, but what we're left with is what we got. And to anyone who likes it, all the more power to you. But nah, I won't be heartbroken if Emmy doesn't show up in New World of Steam. I would still like to see Descalay show up, though, In fact, that's another good segue. Descalay, conversely, is well handled. Actually, amazingly handled up until the bit where he gets incapacitated. Again, like I mentioned, there could have been an amazing parallel between the fall of Emmy and the rise of Descalay, even him reestablishing a good bond with his brother. But they tripped and fumbled with him too. We get to work with him for about the equivalent of 10 minutes before he's incapacitated. He apparently had a dream while he was recovering. Then he comes back, minus his lavish cape, which I guess he got back later anyway when on the airship. But I digress. He comes back just to die. Then he comes back just to apparently die, to at least Layton and the audience's eyes, until it's revealed that he survived. I don't know. Did you really need to fake your death, my dude? And I get it. Way to explain what...
Joe, what I'm reminded of?
What?
The audience doesn't know yet because we haven't published it yet, but the ending of Pokemon Mastermind of Mirage.
Oh my god, yeah. It's such an unnecessary double twist in and of itself. Do you really need to go this much with the fake outs in that regard?
Actually, I was referring more to the villain going at the end and say, "Oh, you will see me again anyway." When would have just died. Like that.
That being said, if you'll allow me, Jova, I can throw a parallel to a work that we already have published, our commentary of Salt. Because that is also a story. Because that is also a story that tries way too hard to throw twist upon twist upon twist of you to the, like we talked about in our commentary, where I even said movie, you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
And Mission Impossible Fallout, that was not.
Yeah, honestly, if there is ever a property that has managed to pull off the rapid fire plot twist stuff, it's Mission Impossible. And granted, to be fair, even Mission Impossible kind of had a bit of a rough start with the first three movies.
Fallout is probably the best case because it has the most twist, but each of them managed to work out despite everything.
I know, right? They're all well-earned because they're well-established elements used throughout the universe that we know of, and they actually do make sense in that regard. I think the problem with, well, almost every twist is not only just them being given at the last minute, but the fact that none have had any clues or whatnot whatsoever. It's just boom, 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 boom. Here you go. That's not to say that they're all necessarily bad. And, you can arguably have a twist that comes out of nowhere if the narrative suits it. But that's the thing. Because everything is so rushed, you don't even get a chance to really sit down with it. And then consequently, neither do the characters. Like, Layton has just figured out that his brother, who may or may not be dying, is Descalé. His father is an insane wacko nut called Bronev, who was kidnapped by Targent and all that jazz. The Targent essentially ruined their lives, although Layton did manage to at least thankfully get amazing foster parents who really raised him well, but I digress. He finds out all this stuff, yet his tone doesn't change. And I get it, Layton can have the flat character arc, but we have seen that he can react with emotion when pushed well enough.
Oh, yeah.
We literally see that earlier in Azran Legacy itself when his parents are threatened. So why? Why on earth does he still seem to handle most of the game after that big revelation with his usual tone and stance? Lack of urgency, too. As Drift pointed out, for as much as Layton talks about, I need to stop Bronev, his point to stop Bronev mostly amounts to, Bronev, no!
The scene of the stabbing is contrived in general. It's constructed just for, cheap shock value.
And that's kind of why, like Tio said, a lot of the twists unfortunately ring hollow for me. Even the arguably good ones. Even the fact that the world is being destroyed doesn't feel that well fleshed out, because honestly, at best, we just see Fronberg, which was, already evacuated, gets destroyed. Like, I'll give Lost Future credit. They didn't just chicken out on the fact that Clyde decimated a good portion of London in his wake of destruction here.
And the irony was that the politician he wanted to destroy still survived and be a dick for another day.
Yeah, which I guess did help show somewhat the futility of his revenge scheme. But that's the thing. That was just the destruction of one city, and yet that feels like it had more impact than supposedly the whole world getting vanquished. Which, okay, this has always been a bit of a pet peeve I have with prequels. Sometimes I find it a bit problematic when a prequel tries to be bigger and larger than the stuff that comes after it, because sometimes in a wake, it makes what will happen later feel small in comparison. Yep. Which isn't always a bad thing, but I do feel like in some ways that does make you wonder, hey, shouldn't these characters be used to dealing with this sort of stuff by this point? Like, they should probably be acing this.
So, would you say that Gears of War Judgment works because of this?
No, well...
God. Well, okay, Gears of War Judgment technically can be considered to work as a prequel in regards to the fact that, yes, I can buy that this stuff kind of sort of happened before the events of the main stuff. That doesn't mean it's good per se, but yeah.
I was just provoking you.
But yeah, no. But yeah. The character dynamics, when they work, are good. It's just that ending. The ending to this whole thing. This is not to say it invalidates all the stuff we got from the prequel trilogy, but holy cow, it's like being on a magic voyage of a train only to slam into the buffers at the end. You'll survive the crash, yes, thanks to those buffers, but you will be mighty upset at how much your trip got ruined with that crashing end. And like, again, because of that, I have to say, while at first I hated the crossover, while at first the crossover put me off more, yeah, no, Azran Legacy's ending to me is the worst thing that the Layton series has done, because there's trying to have your cake and eat it, and then there's legit trying to just take a hammer to the lore you have established across your series and then try to justify it, which that's what it feels like it does. For all the good with Descalé there is also the other problems, and even still, I don't really support the idea of him once again faking his death just to, I guess, faff off in the world or something. Like, at the very least, I would have had him keep contact with Layton. We can easily have it be like, oh, he moved to some other place where we can't be extradited for his crimes or whatnot, yada, yada, yada. You know, he's in hiding, going maybe perhaps back to the Sycamore identity and all that. And, you know, that could be why we don't hear mention of him often, because Layton actually doesn't want to blow his brother's cover. Like, the ironic thing is, I can buy better Layton covering for Descalay, but the implications that Layton covered for Emmy, who, yeah, she later shows remorse, but during the actual act of the story where it matters, she did not show remorse and just gets to leave on her own terms. And again, the thing is, her reasoning doesn't even make sense. My mission is over. Yeah, the mission that Tarjan gave you, but Tarjan is over. Okay, so then it's not about the mission anymore, so why are you leaving if you still have this choice? Like, it really just amounts to, I can't stay because I'm not in the original trilogy. Alright, Timmy, goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you go.
And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It is essentially what I feel to be the Layton series flying too close to the sun. I mean, that's not to say some people didn't raise complaints about twists before, but at the very least, the twists never felt like they were messing with the characters too much. That's where Azran Legacy stands in. Again, the journey up to that point is all well, nice and fun, even if you can see some of the twists coming. It's just that, you know, this is unfortunately an ending that I do feel can very much ruin the story for someone. In the vein of, like, How I Met Your Mother. Because for as great as that show was, that ending will forever go down in history as one of the ultimate examples of how an ending can indeed ruin the whole experience for someone.
It's interesting because that's actually the main. Because once upon a time, I was planning on trying to get into Star versus the Forces of Evil, but then when I heard people say that the ending is one of those, like you just described, I said, you know what? I guess I'll just not do that then.
How fitting is it that that ending literally aired the same day as Game of Thrones ending?
Yeah, same thing for that show. I'll just stick.
Maybe we'll commentate on them someday. Because
that's okay. That's okay. I have Final Fantasy 16 for that. So.
Their downfalls are very fascinating and ripe for commentary, but again, that's another story for another day. For me, Azran Legacy, it's good until it craps the bed in the finale. So, my recommendation, if you have to do the finale, do it once, but then just try and ignore it. Except for the Descalay stuff. Descalay is good, and I still think he should have maintained contact with his brother. Otherwise, yeah, a lot of the twists just do not amount much of good value to me. It is what it is, but thankfully, this is not the end, as I have New World of Steam to look forward to, and hey, depending on what may come with Lady Layton, I could have some stuff, and I do know for sure that Layton Brothers is gonna be a good time.
I can tell Jova that, I mean, it will be fun to see when we do comment on stuff. I can tell that me, Dwebs, Teo, and Shiroi, we don't get the hate towards Lady Layton. We really don't.
Alright then, Pedro, your final thoughts.
Okay. I don't want to once again go over and repeat the same shit everybody's already said, so I'm just gonna keep things brief. Like, I don't think it's a bad game overall. It's an enjoyable game. Like, the puzzles are on, the gameplay is on point. The minigames are on point. The presentation is great. The music is once again brilliant. Everything before the climax is very enjoyable, I will argue. There's a lot of great humor, a lot of great, more heartfelt stuff like we see in Torito. It works. It works really well. The ending, of course, shits the beds, like we've talked about. Everybody's already said why. I've read them. For me, the biggest thing is Emmy, because I've already explained. Like, what was the point of that backstory in Last Spectre then, if this is what you were going to do with Emmy? Like, But whatever, I'm not going to go into another rant about this again. The point is, Azran Legacy is definitely a game that feels like it was poorly planned, because there are good ideas here, but again, it feels like something got screwed up somewhere. It is weird, because yeah, for all the reasons we've talked about. I still don't think it's a bad game overall. I still maintain that to this day, Level 5 has yet to make a game that is outright bad. Yes, they've made games with problems like this one, but if you take even a game like this, if you just take the game overall, like as a whole, as like the whole experience rather than just the ending, it's still a good game, I will argue. Same thing for the crossover. Like, the crossover's climax has a shit ton of problems too, but like we've said in our commentary, it's still a good game overall. So I still can't. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Like, that's the basic gist of it. Yeah.
All right.
Which is why, and trust me, this is why I am so adamant about defending the Lady Layton era, because after this, something more lighthearted and comedic, and something that's much more enjoyable and character driven. Yeah, I can definitely understand why Hino went that route, because that was totally a good thing to do. Let's take a break from this.
I'd argue Azran Legacy was actually very character-driven, so...
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. Something more lighthearted, comedic, and down to earth.
That's fair.
Like you're basically just watching what is basically a Layton anime. Okay, let's see what case Kat is gonna solve today. Which, again, was a nice breath of fresh air. As well, and I have no problem with that, because I like my mystery solving animes, so I have no problem there. But as we see later in the anime, we also eventually build up to something grander again. So it's not like it's entirely like that.
Based off of what you guys have said, I'm guessing fans probably gravitated more towards the anime instead of the game.
The thing of similar to Yokai, the Yokai Watch stuff, or
Megaton Musashi.
I hear no one talking about them in the anime community. I don't understand why, because similar to Lady in the Tramp, it's not even a case where they even to talk about the flaws potentially, or say, oh, this is the blandest anime ever. Nobody does that. They just pass over and nobody noticed, and I don't understand why.
For me, it's one of those things.
I did notice that whatever Lady Layton came about, there was not much buzz about it in the anime community.
Then again,
no one.
Sorry. No.
No one's saying it was bad or particularly good. It's just that, it felt like it kind of just got passed over in general talk.
That's because, aside from hardcore Layton fans, nobody really watched it, because it only came out in Japan. It was originally going to come out on Netflix, but those plans went through because of the Lady Layton backlash that was happening.
That's something else that I noticed about it in general. Not many people that I see, like important YouTube channels, review the Layton games, and especially their plots. I might have seen maybe one or two of those retrospective about the history of the Layton franchise, but those started popping up only a bit after the World of Steam got announced. Before that, I don't remember anyone in particular reviewing the Layton saga, even specifically for the plot. At best, I would get a mentioning here or two, or people like, say, Linkar or Nitro Red that mention, oh yeah, I was playing Layton, while doing this, and they mostly talk about the puzzle aspect, but that's it.
In my experience, Layton tends to get his own dedicated videos, most often from channels that are dedicated to series like Ace Attorney or Danganronpa.
Yeah.
Since Layton shares some articles of that. As to why Layton doesn't always get those channels dedicated to him as much, my best guess would be that Layton is definitely more regarded for the gameplay than the story. Whereas, Ace Attorney has a ton, and I do mean a ton of stuff people can say about the story. Novel. I'm just trying to correlate as to why it seems to be that, again, YouTube-wise, Layton tends to sort of get, the Poe Train thing with, like, you know, the other stories of similar merit. I've not seen a channel that's as dedicated to full-fledged stuff like him. Who knows? Maybe Johnny will eventually get to doing a Layton marathon of such.
It's one of those things where it's just like, okay. No, it's more, no, Job is on the right path. It's more so that there's actually Layton that I can think of one in particular. I don't particularly care for him. I don't really care for his opinions, but because most of okay, whatever. I don't really want to go into another rant about this. The point is, like, that's the thing too. I used to follow the people like that I could still
tell me after we're done.
It's just that it's just because, like, well, okay, let's keep this focused. Yeah, the game is not great. It's still a good game overall. Like, I will argue that Lost Future has a genuinely great story that is worth talking about in an analysis video, because Lost Future is still hell, the entirety of the original trilogy, I will argue, they're undeniable DS classics as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're
I'm willing to bet that if you look and search hard enough, you'll find a Layton community.
Oh yeah, there is. It's just that it's not big. But so I'm looking forward to New World of Steam going back to that. I'm still really miffed at the Layton fan base for their closed-mindedness that we're not gonna get the continuation of where Layton was going, where, you know, we were going, Layton Brothers and Layton were going to cross over, and I would kill to have that, and because of closed-mindedness on some people, I'm not gonna get that, so I'm kind of mad still about that. But that's...
What about the anime? Did that fall through on
No, no.
Precisely what Pedro was mentioning. Season 1 ends up with Alfendi and Lucy showing up on Catriel's lower step, but
yeah,
that's it.
that was going to be the original.
Basically,
sorry. Go on.
I was asking because in some ways that could correlate to how we do get that little bit of the Layton Brothers reference in the game at the end as well. But I'm guessing the anime
is a bit more direct.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, the thing is, based on what we can tell, Jova, the original plan for Lily Layton is we were going to the anime. The reason he made the anime was so he could finish telling the basic story that was started in the game, right? As for the Layton Brothers aspect, that was probably going to be done for a possible third game, right? But we never got that. That being said, I'm still excited for New World of Steam. I'm perfectly fine with going back to the formula of the original trilogy, just Layton and Luke, like people want. I personally would like some more variety in the cast, because I already went through 3 games of just these two.
Well,
so
considering we're going to America and everything, I get the idea people like Chelmy will not be present.
Oh sure, I'm not talking about side characters. I'm talking about like main cast, because as someone who thoroughly embraced the Lady Layton cast for just being a great cast on their own and for what they are, not for trying to be just, you know, Layton and Luke clones or anything like that. I'm still a bit miffed about but whatever. The point is, I'm looking forward to New World of Steam. We will do that eventually when we get to that. But for now, we are going to take a break from the Hershel saga, because there are other Layton related games we can do. In fact, the next stop on the list is Layton Brothers Mystery Room, so we might as well take a look at it. And eventually you also get, gasp, a Layton playthrough recorded by Dwibs. Yes, Layton's Mystery Journey DX for the Switch will be handled by Dwibs. Don't worry, Teo, I gave him the proper guidance so he can do a fine job.
Still preparing the evacuation room just in case.
Fortunately, guys, this is not the end. We still have great, in my opinion, and I still defend that we still have great Layton content going with Layton Brothers and, yes, Layton's Mystery Journey. I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to the audience. I know that right now. I will fight. I will fight for, because I hate injustices. You know, whatever. The point is, now that I'm done my ranting and I got that out of my system, that's it for Azran Legacy, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Well, we didn't enjoy the ending, but I hope you enjoyed what we also enjoyed. So tune in for when we do Layton Brothers Mystery Room.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.